music.
There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
We won't be out long.
Take your time. Track's all yours.
You ready? The name on the middle of that steering wheel should tell you that I was born ready. Hit it.
Attaboy.
Let me drive. I won't make a fool out of you.
I got a message for all of them. Shake and bake.
What does that do? Did that blow your mind? That just happened.
These cars, you sit in a box, a coffin, gasoline all around you. It isn't like it being inside a bomb.
It's tough enough being a girl on the track. Living in my dad's shadow doesn't help much.
You have to be kind to the car. You feel the poor thing groaning underneath you.
No race was ever won in the first corner.
I'm gonna give you an engine, low to the ground, extra big oil pan, cut the wind from underneath you. That'll give you 30 to 40 more horsepower.
Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
Brakes are warm. Tires are warm.
I'll work in the cars and I'll drive and I'll eat and sleep and I'll work in the cars and I'll drive.
Damn fast, and when we run so close together, it requires fantastic concentration and rather special skills.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
If you're going to push a piece of machinery to the limit and expect it to hold together, you have to have some sense of where that limit is.
Besides, the best drivers don't dwell on the future or the past. The best drivers focus only on the present.
They could never have imagined it, those pioneers who invented the automobile, that it would possess us like this in our imaginations, our dreams.
I'm gonna give you a fuel line that will hold an extra gallon of gas. I'm gonna shave half an inch off you and shape you like a bullet.
Somebody put it in your mind you gotta be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
Racing is in my blood.
I was put on this earth to race cars.
I accept every time I get in my car. There's 20% chance I could die, and I can live with it, but not 1% more.
No, Nicky, don't bring the percentages into this. Don't be a pro. The minute you do that, you kill what's good about this. You kill the sport.
And at that speed, your reactions can barely keep up with these sudden changes in direction.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up?
You want me to work the pit and you drive? Fine, we'll try that.
The car's a living, breathing thing, and she's alive.
If any of us imagined, really imagined, what it would be like to go into a tree at 150 miles an hour, we would probably never get into the cars at all. None of us.
Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
I am just as good as anybody out there on that track, and I don't need anybody to win my races for me.
I wish my daddy were alive to see this, to feel this.
And when we get you primed, painted, and weighed, you'll be ready to go out on that racetrack. You hear me? You're gonna be perfect.
You don't understand what happens, do you? They make 10,000 cars, they make them exactly the same way, and one or two of them turn out to be something special. Nobody knows why.
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
So it has always seemed to me that to do something very dangerous requires a certain absence of imagination.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated by the hands of somebody who is truly better than you.
The only thing to do here is to drive just as fast as you know how and hope your car doesn't break.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
If you ain't first, you're last.
There's 40 other vultures out there who managed to finish the race on their tires. You see Darrell Waltrip using up his tires?
There's nothing I can't do with a race car.
I mean, hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? Come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
Sometimes you could swear the whole thing's falling to bits.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
On the other hand, I suppose potential problems are in the back of your mind all the time.
So in many ways, I feel responsible for what happened. And
You were, but trust me, watching you win those races while I was fighting for my life, you were equally responsible for getting me back in the car.
You're so lucky. Sit there all closed in by machinery and bolts, precise things. There's hardly any room for you. It must be a nice, safe feeling.
Yeah, you gotta learn to trust something. Might just as well be the seat of your pants.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Well, we can drive. We can drive beyond the limits of the tires, the engine, the car, anything else.
Look out there. Out there is the perfect lap. No mistakes. Every gear change, every corner. Perfect. You see it.
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
But it isn't just business, is it? What we do, it's passion, love, which is why we're prepared to risk our lives for it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up or shut up.
Why does everybody keep telling me what my problem is?
That you get so emotional.
You would never, ever say that to a guy.
If you don't leave your feelings off the track, you're never gonna get what you want.
I'm a race driver, and I can win it on my own. Please let me race.
Fine. Then let's race.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's that time of the year again. It's the British Grand Prix at the home of British motor racing, Silverstone in Northamptonshire. The 1991 British Grand Prix sets to be particularly exciting in this Retro Racing Managers League season. Good evening, everybody. Jake Sanson here with you to bring you all of the action from today's racing. Two races, as always, the first of which is the slightly shorter race distance, and that is pre-qualifying. The first three teams across the line will progress into the qualifying session for the 1991 British Grand Prix. Our team managers have been working very hard indeed to make sure that the teams, cars and drivers are ready for action at Silverstone. They have stated that due to the rush to come from Magny-Cours in France to Silverstone, the intense scrutineering work that was going to be done on the teams before the British Grand Prix has now had to come after. However, the RRML has stated that any penalty that needs to be given to teams that are suspected of wrongdoing are going to be draconian in nature. And that is a direct quote from the RRML. So, could be very interesting. For now, though, let's focus on the business of racing. In the pre-qualifying session, we'll get on to the latest breaking news from the world of Grand Prix racing during the course of the two races. But it's business as usual over at Honda. Aguri Suzuki and Ukyo Katayama are on the front row of the starting grid as usual. Eddie Cheever in the Eurobrun Ford is alongside Eric Bernard in the Modena Lamborghini. Then Willie T. Ribbs and Paul Tracy alongside Fabrizio Bavazza and Alan McNish in the much improved Real up there in 8th position on the grid in his home event. Carl Wendlinger is alongside Nicola Larini, Laura Aiello right up in 11th, along with Tommy Byrne in the Zaxspeed. Then Martin Donnelly in the Fonmetal and Damon Hill in the new Renault in 14th. Roberto Moreno and Emanuele Pirro are next up. Then on row 9, it's Andrea De Cesaris alongside Rickard Rydell. Ronan Ratzenberger is beside Joachim Winkelhock on the 10th row of the starting grid. The final six, Hideki Noda back down to where he belongs, really, over the course of the previous races, along with Pierluigi Martini, Jean-Marc Gounod in the Renault down in 23rd with Ivan Capelli, then JJ Leto and the Minardi of Eric Comas at the back end of the field. So the contenders are gearing up ready, 30 laps of this Silverstone circuit, and the winning three teams across the line, the first three cars to cross that line, will progress through to Grand Prix. It's going to be very interesting to see which cars are going to get there, but there's plenty of teams that can go for it. We're racing in the pre-qualifying sprint, so let's see who gets the best of it around the home of British Motor Racing. A good start from the two Hondas. They're going to drag race to the first corner, and round the outside Suzuki has held it from Katayama. Tommy Byrne a little bit of nudging into Cop's corner as the field tries to work its way through, but it's Suzuki from Katayama, Cheever and Ribbs in the two Eurobrun Fords. So Willie T. Ribbs has made a very good start of it. Has actually beaten Bernard across the line. In fact, Bernard, who started P4, is now already down to P7. He has not got the start he wanted. Fifth position for Tracy. Then Barbazza and Bernard. Alan McNish has done a great job off the start, and Katayama's going for the lead. So Katayama goes down the inside and takes it from Aguri Suzuki on the opening lap. So the Hondas already battling away. A fascinating situation for the Japanese manufacturer. Willie T. Ribbs running in 5th position. He's lost out to Paul Tracy, so the Canadian has got past the American. They run out of club along the short stretch up to the Abbey chicane. It's going to be a very interesting run under the bridge. This is the brand new configuration, of course, for the British Grand Prix. You won't have seen this any time before this. It's brand new. They now go under this fabulous bridge section, then in through Priory and up to Brooklands. Then it rejoins the old circuit with this new Luffield combination of two right-handers. Has become very new indeed. So the Maggots and Beckett section has definitely been changed, and then the new profiling of club. And that's Eddie Cheever making his bid for Aguri Suzuki. On the opening lap, he's already trying to make his bid there into second place as we go to the second lap. He's definitely working hard to try and work his way forward. Aguri Suzuki trying to defend against the Ford Eurobrun. continues on its way. As they continue to duel away. It was released, rumours are rife that the European team is going to be returning to the world of Group C to focus on its Porsche programme. And so he's going to give complete control of the Ford operation to the Blue Oval manufacturer themselves. So it could be very interesting. Alan McNish diving up the inside. Looks like Ribbs has got back past Tracy. So lots of shuffling of the deck. McNish has managed to get past the Jordan of Fabrizio Mamazza. Could this be the first chance for Real to get into the Grand Prix? That's Comas! The fast-starting Eric Comas, who made up about 5 places off the start, has unfortunately spun the Minardi at the new Stowe corner as they come up to the new Vale section of the course. That's very unfortunate for Eric Comas. It really hasn't continued in fine felt, this particular race for him. He started pretty well, but unfortunately has dropped all the way back down the order. So Chiva is trying again on Aguri Suzuki, trying to make his presence felt here. And there is Damon Hill in the all-new Renault Grand Prix car. They say don't expect much from 1991, expect a lot from 1992, is what the French manufacturer says. I think they're going to be much stronger next season. So Damon Hill is basically doing grunt work for the team as they get up to speed for the rest of 1991. Diving at the inside, the Dalaras are swapping positions there. That's Pirro and Larini going to battle. Zagori Suzuki still having a very interesting run of it. Luigi Martini in the other Minardi having a bit of a struggle through Copse Corner by the look of it, but he's managed to keep it going. So, and into lap number 3 out of 30. Katayama, Suzuki, Chiva, Ribbs, Bernard, Tracy, McNish, Barbazza, Venling and Moreno is the top 10. However, it looks as though Barbazza's made the move for 7th. And Moreno in the Coloni has made the move on Wendlinger for 9th position. Here's Eddie Chiva again. The American Grand Prix driver going very well to try and make his move on the inside of Aguri Suzuki. There's Martin Donnelly in the Fonmetal. That car looking so much stronger here at Silverstone. So clearly, that car is continuing to do good stuff in the 1991 season. They just don't seem to have the reliability to get that car further up the grid than they currently have. Doing a good job overall, and certainly the board of directors are very happy with the way that the Fonmetal team is being run, structured. They're giving it everything they possibly can. Willie T. Ribbs, 4th position. Fabulous run from him so far as he continues to give the European team plenty to smile about. Neither car made it through to the end last time out in France though. So they'll be hoping that here at Silverstone in Great Britain, will be a much better run for it. So they continue. Still holding a good... Oh, that's smoke coming out of the back of the car! Smoke coming out of the back of Willie T. Ribbs' Ford Eurobrunt. So I'm afraid Willie T. Ribbs is going to park it very soon. Oh, there's another car in trouble as well. As we go to the back of the field, we can see that one of the Colonis is in dire straits. I think that's the Cesaris. So it is indeed Andrea De Cesaris billowing smoke and flames from the back of the Coloni. The Subaru engine clearly still having problems. So it looks as though we were about to lose Ribbs in the Ford Eurobrunt and De Cesaris in the Subaru-powered Coloni. Alan McNish trying to work his way forward as he tries to dodge Willie T. Ribbs in the Ford Eurobrunt. Oh, goodness me. Willie T. Ribbs really should have parked this by now. And so you could see there the smoke billowing out of the car. Andrea De Cesaris has parked the Coloni, by the way. So no further will Andrea De Cesaris go. And there is Willie T. Ribbs parking the Ford Eurobrunt. He's at least parked it by a marshal's post. So that is the man who was in 4th position, I'm afraid, out of this race. Very unfortunate. So we have 2 retirements on lap 5. And it's Willie T. Ribbs in the Ford Eurobrunt. And also Andrea De Cesaris in the Coloni Subaru. So the marshals have got there already to Willie T. Ribbs' car, but that's both drivers out of the race. Very unfortunate indeed. So, Katayama leads the way. Chiva has got past Suzuki into 2nd place. Unfortunately, we didn't see the move, but Chiva has got into 2nd place in the Eurobrunt, and the car that's currently going to join them in the Grand Prix, along with the Honda and Ford cars, is going to be the Modena Lamborghini crew, because we've got Bernard and Tracy in 4th and 5th. Good run from Ratzenberger around the outside at Copse Corner there. He is in amongst the Monteverdis at the moment, trying to work his way further forward. So a very solid run at the moment. On board with Yuki Gabrieleto, who I just refers to him as JJ. Then new talent in the world of Grand Prix racing, of course, the young Finn, the Monteverdi team, doing everything they can to move this young charge up the field. Still they continue, still they battle on. And that's a position lost. There goes Roman Ratzenberger. So Roman Ratzenberger working its way through. Very nice run there from the Fonmetal. There is the Austrian, who seems to be one of the serial overtakers of this 1991 season. He's definitely going to be on the lips of many a team principal going into 1992. And of course, it isn't going to be too long until the driver market really becomes open in the Grand Prix season for 1991. That's definitely going to be something that the teams are going to want to take full advantage of when that comes around. Here's Pierluigi Martini. His way into the battle again. That's one of the Zach speeds in front of him. It's got to be Joachim Winkelhoff because his teammate Tommy Bird is currently running just a little way up the road from that. So there's been a little bit of movement in the world of Grand Prix racing today. Now we're settling into the meat and bones of this Grand Prix. We can start talking about it. There's a wild rumour going around that's come out of the Brazilian motorsport press that the three-time world champion Nelson Piquet is trying to team up with the double world champion Emerson Fittipaldi, who of course is now racing in IndyCar. They are apparently trying to get some funding back into the Fittipaldi race team, or Copersucar, depending on which brand actually gets the nod. But they're trying to put a team on the grid for 1992, which would effectively be Team Brazil, as Fabrizio Babazza has a little bit of a moment there, having worked his way past Paul Tracy. And the Jordan driver now wants to go after Eric Bernard. But apparently Emerson Fittipaldi says he's thinking about Grand Prix racing again. He's 44 years of age this year, would you believe? And he is having a think about it. Oh, and Jean-Marc Gounod has parked the Renault. So Jean-Marc Gounod is out of the race in the Renault. There he is. So unfortunately, that is one of the two Renault cars out of the race for the time being. There might be a second one later, but not if Damon Hill's got anything to say about it. Certainly for the moment, the old nickname from the 1970s of the Yellow Teapots certainly appears to be still a very prominent one in 1991. They haven't raced as a manufacturer since 1985. A bit of a comeback for them. JJ Leto making his bid up the inside line. Not going to happen in Copse Corner, I don't think. Here is Damon Hill in the all-new Renault. He's definitely going to have some additions to it over the course of 1991 heading into 92. Oh, and there's a car smoking behind them. Is that one of the Zach Speeds in trouble? Certainly we've got a car with smoke billowing out of the back of it behind Damon Hill. So I think Joachim Winkelhoff might be in trouble in the Zach Speed BMW. Very unfortunate for them. Oh no, it's not. Is that McNish? No, that's Rydell. So that's his teammate, Rickard Rydell, the Swedish driver in the Real Ilmor. So the Real Ilmor team struggling as they drop to one car now. Very ironic that we talk about the Real Ilmor car because there have been reports after the recent Le Mans 24 Hours that one of the three teams that's actually linked to the Ilmor brand, the Sauber Mercedes team, is looking at a full Grand Prix entry for 1992 as Rickard Rydell is now out of the race. But then two other teams are looking for a way into Grand Prix racing next year. TWR Jaguar that almost eclipsed the podium this year. Certainly finished second, third and fourth with their three respective cars. And the Mazda Speed crew that took the win a couple of weeks ago with Volker Wiedler, Bertrand Gachot and Johnny Herbert. So interesting how Mazda Speed were actually quoted in the press as saying that Grand Prix racing is, quote, not an unrealistic target anymore, close bracket. So that's a very interesting quote to come out of the Japanese manufacturer Mazda. So what if they put a Grand Prix team together? That would be an interesting one for Honda. We know already of the rumours that Tom's Toyota are considering bringing Toyota name to Grand Prix racing. Now, I mentioned Ilmor earlier on. Apparently they are working with Mercedes very closely on their Grand Prix engines, and apparently Sauber are looking for a way into Grand Prix racing next year. They might even buy an existing outfit to do so. Looks like there might be a problem for Paul Tracy. He's under some pressure there from Roberto Moreno in the Coloni Subaru. It could be a bit of an interesting one there. Not entirely sure how that's going to work. By the way, they're not the only team that's looking to come into Grand Prix racing for 1992. Whichever team wins the Formula 3000 championship in 1991 is going to get an opportunity to join the Grand Prix Prix grid. Of course, this will be the last year that it will be run under the name of Formula 3000 before it reverts back to the much less complicated Formula 2 brand, which is going to be quite different in terms of the way it's gone. However, we saw the Zach speed earlier on, and we saw the troubles that they are having, but their engine supplier, BMW, apparently the rumour is, as Nicola Larini comes into the pits very early on, I suspect that's mechanical problems rather than strategy. Oh, and there is the other Real Ilmore, Alan McNish, flames coming out of the back of the car, so unfortunate. He was having a great race up to that point. So Alan McNish is out of this one. Very unfortunate indeed. Oh, Goody Suzuki nearly drops it on the new bridge corner. So Aguri Suzuki, who is 14.5 seconds now behind his teammate Ukyo Katayama in the lead. Very strange scenario, very bizarre difference in terms of speed between the two cars. How much heavier is Aguri Suzuki running by comparison to Ukyo Katayama, I wonder? He's probably on the heavy fuel strategy to go the long way without pitting, as opposed to Katayama, who I think is on the one-stop strategy. So he's pulling away with a much less heavy car. But now I was pointing out about BMW, the engine suppliers, the Zach Speed, that they have decided recently to end their design program with Nick Wirth's Simtech operation. That's Martin Donnelly. So Martin Donnelly in the Fonmetal. They were going so much better this time. Certainly on one lap pace, the car definitely looks to be going quicker. But I'm afraid at the expense of the engine's reliability. So more problems for Martin Donnelly, but at least the car is going quicker than it was. But that's going to be very slim compensation to team manager Ed Hunter. No, BMW not looking to run their own Grand Prix team for 1992 after all. There were rumours that they were looking at it, but they have decided for the moment to stick with just supplying engines to the Arrows team at the moment, although apparently the engineer does expire at the end of 1991, although I'm aware of the fact that there was a statement put out by Arrows. They are very happy with the fact that BMW are not going into team management themselves, and they want to work with them again in 1992, and certainly there's going to be some negotiations. There's Joachim Winkelhock. Oh, and he's gone off the road! Winkelhock spins off the road there on the Vale chicane. Well, that's bitter disappointment for Smokin' Joe, as he is known. So Smokin' Joe Winkelhock having a bit of a moment there as he runs off the road. He's managed to recover. He has got going again. But Smokin' Joe having a moment there as he continues in fine form. He's making a bit of a mistake there, unfortunately. So Katayama leads the way from Chiva, Suzuki, Bernard and Barbazza. And here is Bernard making the bid on the inside of Aguri Suzuki. That's going to cement the Modena team's chances of going through. So a really interesting scenario then for the Modena Lamborghini team as Eddie Chiva there runs in second place in the Ford Eurobrook through the chicane. And here's Wendlinger. Now Wendlinger's making his bid on Emanuele Pirro. He continues to make good progress. Drives up the inside, 9th place. So that's a good run from the Austrian. As he gets through then, the Jordan Ferrari up into 9th position. And after the slight threat of having a seat displacement by Otto Rensing, both drivers I think have really had a much needed shot in the arm there and have definitely upped their game a little bit. Barbazza in 5th, Wendlinger in 9th position. Wendlinger behind Laurent Aiello. Now there's been a lot of controversy around the sudden change in fortunes of the AGS team. AGS have basically put an awful lot of their development money into the power of the Judd engine. It's still fairly unreliable, unfortunately, but they've definitely put an awful lot more into the straight line speed, and they've said they've done this with particular reference to the high-speed circuits coming up on the calendar, such as Hockenheim, Spa and Monza. They really want to have a chance of getting into a Grand Prix, and they're going to push for that. So it'll be interesting to see whether that's going to happen. Now, there has been some interesting movements in terms of the calendar for 1992 as well. The rumours that we thought we had confirmed are now confirmed. The Mexican Grand Prix has been left off next year's calendar in favour of the South African Grand Prix at Kyalami. A lot of people have been left rather dumbfounded by this. They rather enjoyed the Mexican Grand Prix this year, but apparently it's not likely to run again in 1992. It's been replaced by the South African race at Kyalami. There is a Pacific Grand Prix which is now emerging on the calendar. I think Pacific Grand Prix. It's definitely not been ruled out. We don't know any more about where that's going to happen just yet, but of course, in the RRML, the teams do have a say as to where they go racing in Grand Prix racing, so I'm sure that'll happen. Oh, and that's the Minardi of Pierluigi Martini. He had climbed all the way to 13th, a much better run for the Minardi team at Silverstone. But I'm afraid it's all come to nothing. You've got a feel for team boss Michael Gillespie, who's been working very closely with Giancarlo Minardi in 1991, but I'm afraid they're going, no, oh, that's Winkelhock off again! Winkelhock off for the second time in this race, spinning off this time at the new chicane just before bridge. Winkelhock is going to drop right to the back. Where's he going? Where is Joe Winkelhock going? He's turned left instead of going right to rejoin the circuit, so, well, Joe Winkelhock making a real hash of that, unfortunately. That's really ruined his chances, as Wendlinger has now got past Lauren Aiello. What's happening with Martin Donnelly's car? He's already been recovered once in this race. So I think the marshal's just trying to move the car to a better position, and into the pits comes Chiva behind Katayama. So Katayama and Chiva are both pitting. So they are taking advantage of the... Look at how close to the drapes of the car Chiva came there. Really put the car to its absolute barest bones there in terms of fuel, as Bernard comes into the pits as well. Suzuki motors on a no-stop strategy, I should say, sorry. So Suzuki will take the lead. Eric Bernard is joined in the pits by Barbazza. Everybody's seemingly coming into the pits pretty much together. So a very solid run. Those who are continuing on and prepared to lose the time. As Martini, there he goes, pulls out of the race. Bitter disappointment for Pierluigi Martini. Was looking so good up to that point. The Minardi looking much more competitive here at Silverstone. But unfortunately, it's not enough to get them into the Grand Prix. Just 6 of the teams in the pre-qualifying section have managed to get through to the Grand Prix this season. And I'm afraid that the Minardi team isn't one of them. So there is Tommy Byrne, the sole surviving Zach Speed, and he is battling with Eric Bernard in the Modena Lamborghini, who's got superior horsepower. The Lamborghini power unit clearly better than the BMW, or at least better than the Zach Speed. The car is in front of the Modena Lamborghini, because Bernard is able to catch it and pass it fairly rapidly. There is Jacob Winkelhock, running in 19th position, and he dropped all the way to the back of the field effectively. So not an easy race this for the Zach Speed crew. A very interesting situation then for the competitors. Those who are interested in the state of the calendar for next year, apparently the French Grand Prix is very much up for discussion after Magny-Cours, along with the teams and the spectators, found the race fairly dull and boring, actually. They weren't, I was want to say it, but certainly the Magny-Cours circuit, which was used in the Grand Prix calendar this year, apparently did not win over the favour of many people. So apparently the Grand Prix promoters have been told by the French Sporting Association of Motor Racing, the FMSA, to find a new location for 1992. I think they were rather hoping Magny-Cours would be a permanent one. Not entirely sure what's happening here with Martin Donnelly's Fon Metal, but certainly the marshal there is working hard to manoeuvre it out of its current position. Back to the French Grand Prix story. Apparently, the Circuit de la Sarthe is pitching to become the home of the French Grand Prix. Now, there has been a Grand Prix run at Le Mans before in 1967, but that was on the Bugatti circuit. Apparently, they want to run the Grand Prix on the Circuit de la Sarthe. That's great. That will be the longest circuit on the Grand Prix calendar for quite some time. But the ACO, who of course look after the Le Mans 24 Hours, and is looking to bring Grand Prix racing to the Circuit de la Sarthe, have said there's no reason why the race cannot be run on that circuit. And here comes the move from Katayama. He has caught his teammate once again, and he'll dive for it from the inside. Suzuki will not make it easy for him. Now, that is rather a dramatic statement made there by Aguri Suzuki on his teammate Katayama, who's on a much quicker car, who's on much fresher tyres. And Suzuki making it very clear that Katayama is not going to be given anything easily in 1991. Very interesting to see how that's all played out, as Emanuele Pirro comes into the pits, so does Roberto Moreno, so does Damon Hill in the Renault, and that's JJ Leto in the Monteverdi. JJ Leto, steam billowing out of the back of his car now as well. So I'm afraid JJ Leto in the Monteverdi is out of this race. So very disappointing indeed. Katayama has now got past Suzuki, by the way. He did it at the foot of the hangar straight. So he has now got through, but there's definitely going to need to be a word between the two Honda drivers, because that got very close, and that will definitely be something worth having a go. Oh, someone else in trouble. Cars really are dropping out of this. That is Chiva! That is Chiva in the Ford Eurobred. Third position gone. So once again, the Ford Eurobred team are not going to make it to the Grand Prix. Very unfortunate indeed then. As you've got to feel for the Ford Eurobred team, that's the second race in a row that both cars have dropped out in pre-qualifying. And that now promotes Tracy to third, and it's going to promote Bob Batzer and the Jordan team up into the running. And let's not forget that Tommy Byrne and Hideki Noda are not that far away. So there is Chiva pulling off. Bitter disappointment. They are not happy at all at Ford. As there is a very disgruntled Eddie Chiva parking the car up at Woodcote. And that's game over for Ford here at Silverstone. Very disappointing indeed. And Ivan Capelli's now dropped out of the race in the other Monteverdi. So they are absolutely dropping like flies here. This Silverstone circuit really is taking its toll on these teams and these cars, as they are dropping out left, right and centre here. Not going well at all for several of the crews, as we ride with Eric Comas in the other Minardi. We know that Martini's out of the race. Comas is still going. And that is Aguri Suzuki, running 3.4 seconds back from Katayama. That's the difference that one set of fresh tyres can make compared to an old set that's going all the way. Maybe just covering their bases, the Honda team. So, fascinating stuff. Now, it's also worth keeping an eye on a few other bits and pieces that are relevant to the pre-qualifying. Obviously, we know of the split between Gerard Larousse and the Lola team, which is now, of course, in the main Grand Prix for at least one more race. We don't actually know whether any team is going to outscore them in terms of championship points ready ahead of the German Grand Prix. As Tommy Byrne locks up, he can't afford to throw away P6. Not when you've got Katayama, Suzuki, Tracy, Bernard and Bobatza in front of him. Tommy Byrne has a chance to put the Zaxby team into the Grand Prix, and he knows it. Got to be very careful from here on out. You don't want to throw this chance away. I was going to state that Gerard Larousse, obviously having split with the Lola team, because no bills were actually paid, is what's been told in the press, between Larousse and Lola. That's why Lola split with Gerard Larousse. Apparently Gerard Larousse is teaming up with the sports car manufacturer Venturi to come back to Grand Prix racing as Venturi Larousse. Apparently landing in discussions over engine deals. It looks as though they're going to try and make a return to the Grand Prix grid in 1992, which is interesting because the CEO of Lola, Eric Morley, has actually said that they're not going to continue in Grand Prix racing after the end of the 1991 season. That will be it. So obviously team manager Tom Cairns is already looking for more work in 1992 with a different team. And obviously the reason for Lola pulling out is that they want to focus on IndyCar and becoming the sole supplier of chassis to the new rebranded Formula 2 championship. So interesting for Lola. They pull out at the end of 1991, which is a bit of a surprise considering how well they've gone. So you won't see the MasterCard Lola team in Formula 1 in 1992. Very unfortunate. What else can we tell you in the rumour mill as we watch Paul Tracy out on the circuit? Well, apparently there are several venues in the United States of America pitching to host the 1992 Grand Prix after the interesting case of affairs at Cleveland earlier this year. It's been stated quite frequently that Wendlinger getting past Hideki Noda. Yes, it was. So Wendlinger's got into 7th place. That really hampers ABS's chances of getting through to the Grand Prix. It strengthens Jordan's, because now they've got two cars up in the top 10 and running very well. Hideki Noda and Lauren Aiello are running 8th and 10th in the AGSs, doing a great job. But no, just to come back to the story of the United States Grand Prix, there are apparently several venues interested. Laguna Seca in Monterey, California, Watkins Glen in upstate New York, and even the street venues at Detroit and Dallas are looking to make a comeback into the world of Grand Prix racing in 1992. It'll be very interesting to see if they can run a Grand Prix again. Gil Katayama, his way onto the hangar straight. Go under the bridge, down towards the completely weak profile Stoke corner. Now, who's that who's coming up to lap? I think that might be Eric Comas in the Minardi. So Comas is running towards the tail of the field. Very tricky racing it so far. Indeed it is. So Comas there running in 15th position. Very unfortunately, around behind him is Joe Winkelhoff, of course. Here comes Moreno in the Subaru engine Coloni. He's going to dive in on the inside of Noda. No, he's not. Hideki Noda, the Japanese driver, making it very clear. We've not run in the top 10 so far this year at AGS. We want to stay here. A lot of teams have been very suspicious about AGS's recent climb up the grid. So apparently there's going to be a serial investigation into the cars after the British Grand Prix. Comas is swarming around all over to try and fend off the Honda. Unfortunately, Katayama has swept through. And with 10 laps to go, it's all going strong. Noda around the outside of Moreno. Not going to get through. Hideki Noda again makes it very clear. The Brazilian Roberto Moreno is going to have to try very hard indeed to get past Hideki Noda, the Japanese driver, in the AGS. He will not make it easy. So, a fabulous run. And still, the contenders battle on. So, we're still having a really interesting run. Moreno tries again on the inside of Noda. Not going to happen. Again, more excitement and more drama in these last 10 laps likely. Fabio Katayama and Aguri Suzuki still running 1 and 2 in the Hondas. There's Fabrizio Barbazza through this new Maggots and Beckett's section, which the drivers have fallen absolutely head over heels in love with, by the way. They love the challenge of going through the left-right section. They really enjoy what it does to the physicality of the car. And certainly the only people that don't really like it are the team principals, because they've had to completely change the setup of the car to cope with that. So Aguri Suzuki in the second Honda, dropping a little further back. 6.9 seconds is the deficit now to Katayama. And here comes Roberto Moreno diving through, and they've got a nice queue of traffic developing behind them here, so they need to get on with this. Hideki Noda holding them up. Moreno's got through now. So Noda is in danger of holding up his teammate here, Lauren Aiello. And here's Emanuele Pirro making the bid to get through instead. So some interesting challenges there as Ratzenberger's trying to close up on this little train of cars. But he's obviously got quite a bit of a deficit to make up on them. He's about 14 seconds back from Hideki Noda. But still the battles rage on here. Roland Ratzenberger tries his best in the sole remaining Fonmetal to close up on the leaders up front. But there is Ukyo Katayama on lap 22 out of 30. Don't forget, the top 3 teams across the line are the ones that go through to the British Grand Prix of 1991. At the moment, it's looking to be Honda, Modena, and Jordan. Roland Ratzenberger still working his way through the new Luffield section now. Definitely a driver that people were needing to watch out for in 1991 and 1992 for that matter as well. As Roland Ratzenberger, definitely a hot topic. Making lots of great moves in that little Fonmetal. It may not be the fastest car on the grid, but in Roland Ratzenberger's hands, he's certainly been able to do some very interesting things with it. He's right over with Joe Winkelhoff. He's had his moments in this one, hasn't he? He's not really gone the way of the Sachs-Big driver. However, his teammate Tommy Byrne might get him into the Grand Prix anyway, because Tommy Byrne is currently in P6. And if we lose Fabrizio Barbazza's Jordan from this race, then Sachs-Speed suddenly find themselves going through to the Grand Prix. Then the next favourite team to get through is actually the Coloni squad, because the AGS pair are now accidentally holding each other up. Hideki Noda quite likes running in the top 10, and is not really giving his teammate Lauren Aiello much of a chance to get by, and that could actually be very counterproductive indeed. Now here's Wendlinger. He's going to strengthen the chances of Jordan getting through. Carl Wendlinger diving up the inside of Tommy Byrne, and that's lovely from the Austrian. And that will definitely give Topher Smith a little bit more breathing space on the pit wall. He'll find it a little bit easier to cope with this now, with two cars likely to have a chance of getting through rather than just one. So Wendlinger getting into 6th place definitely strengthens the bid as Laurent Aiello passes his teammate Hideki Noda finally to get into 9th position, but he's lost a lot of time. Oh, someone's in trouble up the road. Could that have been perfect timing for Carl Wendlinger, because there's a car in front going wide. That's Eric Comas not getting out of the way of a Aguri Suzuki. So Minardi's Eric Comas definitely potentially under some trouble here. As Emanuele Pirro is about to lose out to Damon Hill in the Renault. There we go, Damon Hill developing that car. Looking good for a top 10 finish for the Renault. It's Winkelhock. Winkelhock has finally pushed the car too hard. And the engine in that BMW powered Zach Speed has well and truly gone. Well, Tommy Byrne is still in 7th place, still looking good to have a decent top 10 finish. His teammate Joe Winkelhock is now out of the race. He's pulled off to the sidelines. That's a bit of disappointment for the Zach Speed team. Rumours very wild at the moment that they are likely to be replaced anyway and bought out by the Sauber operation. That could be very interesting if that comes to pass. Rukyo Katayama leads by 13.6 seconds over his own teammate Aguri Suzuki. Then Paul Tracy and Eric Bernard. Not much between those two cars now. Just 1.4 seconds between the two drivers. Fabrizio Barbazza seems to be safe in P5. Carl Wendlinger a lot safer than he was in P6. It's looking pretty good for those three teams to go through. But by my mathematics, we've only got 15 cars still running the race. And there is a man who was not expected to be running in the top 10, I don't think. Laurent Aiello in the AGS. Very talented driver, Laurent Aiello. Worth pointing that out, but he's not really had the car this year to be competitive. The AGS has been on the back row for most of the season. But after the Canadian Grand Prix, their car suddenly found some pace. So there is Rukyo Katayama. Grand job, 6 laps from the flag. Paul Tracy, the Canadian, running in 3rd ahead of his teammate Eric Bernard, who has managed to get himself back into 4th position, albeit the long way round, if you like. So he's had a bit of a tricky run to get there. Fabrizio Barbazza, P5, Carl Wendlinger, P6. The Jordans looking safe and sound to get themselves through into position again, and that definitely helps them to move forward. Trying to get away from Rukyo Katayama at this moment. Katayama is now definitely putting Roland Ratzenberger up against the ropes. Let's see if he can get through. Is this going to be a position change further back? It is, because Noda's going to lose out here to Nicola Larini and possibly to Emanuele Pirro as well. Now that's interesting. We've got just outside my commentary box, that sounds like an ambulance going by. I wonder if something is not quite right with one of the drivers, because that's disappearing to the far side of the course, and I'm not entirely sure that that's all is well. So interesting situation there, but I'm sure you all heard that, but certainly an ambulance going past my position means that it's on the move somewhere. Not sure who that's affecting. We'll try and figure out who that was for, but certainly, well, I'm not entirely sure. I don't have anything to say on that one. We'll give you a little bit of an update later. So, Rukyo Katayama currently leads the way. Aguri Suzuki is 2nd, then Paul Tracy in 3rd from Barnard and Barbazza. Then Wendlinger, Byrne, Moreno, Aiello, and the Renault of Damon Hill in the top 10. Definitely looking good for the modern Lamborghini team. Lamborghini will be taking over this team completely for the 1992 season. And apparently the very interesting Italian shoe magnate, very interesting character, Andrea Sassetti, wants to have an involvement in the Grand Prix team. A team where he could do some of his best work, apparently. I wonder what team boss Ben Hansen has to say about that. He's a very interesting character, Andrea Sassetti. So through to first and second. Then Tracy and Bernard. Bernard's going to make the bit up the inside. No, he can't get through. So a little bit of civil war then, a little bit of rivalry between them onto the Lamborghini cars. So really exciting run out there for the moment. Katayama continues to lead 14 seconds clear of his teammate Aguri Suzuki. And a very solid run of it. Paul Tracy in third, then Bernard, Balbazza, Benlinger, Byrne, Moreno, Aiello and Damon Hill. All going well in the top 10 at the moment. Top comes the competitors. Hideki Noda having a very difficult race now. He's suddenly dropped to 13th position. He's having some handling difficulties with that AGS. Either that or I think he just left the car out on the circuit too long. One-stop strategy. He's got the way to go. Noda's got down to the top 10. He's now just trying to stay in the race essentially now. Only Ratzenberger, who had mechanical problems earlier, and Eric Comas, who spun off the road, are now behind Hideki Noda again. So Lauren Aiello is able to be relatively competitive with his AGS, but Hideki Noda was essentially a mobile chicane to a lot of the drivers in that top 10. So that will only fuel more interesting speculation surrounding the AGS team. I wonder what team boss Mike Kidman will have to say about any of that. Here comes Paul Tracy. 3 laps to go now for the leading crews, but it still looks as though it's going to be Honda, Modena and Jordan that will get through to the British Grand Prix for 1991. That's good news for Jordan on home turf. They will really have wanted to do this. In fact, they are so close to home turf that their former Grand Prix HQ was actually just over the road from this circuit. Of course, their new operation is based in Germany. Topher Smith obviously has very deep roots in the country and wanted to have a German-based Grand Prix team. So convinced Eddie Jordan that the team would be a stronger powerhouse if they had more technical backing from Eastern Europe, Middle Europe. There's Emanuele Pirro. Around the far side goes Ukyo Katayama to put a lap on the Dallara. Having a very solid race of it out front now. Aguri Suzuki, second position for his Honda colleague. Eric Comas in Minardi just puffs up the brakes there. And with 2 to go, it's Honda 1-2, Modena 3-4, Jordan 5-6. So Ukyo Katayama just working his way through this new Maggots and Beckett section. That's going to make for very interesting racing in the British Grand Prix itself, I'm sure. But it's likely to be this same scenario again. We have the Honda team do such a dominant job in pre-qualifying, then they get into the Grand Prix, and the car just doesn't have what it takes to run at the front of the Grand Prix. They do take the occasional point home, though. It's worth keeping an eye on Honda for the Grand Prix, provided they get through. If they can get to the end of the race, points could well be on offer for them. Don't forget that in the Grand Prix, the top 10 cars across the line score championship points. And look at the retirements in this one. Only 15 of the cars that started are still running. 2 of those have Honda engines up at the front end of the field. There used to be 4 Honda engine cars in this particular pre-qualifying session, but obviously when Lewis Bassendale parted company with the Renault team, Kaloni tore up the Honda engine contract, or I should say it's the other way round, although one party says that we did the deal and then ripped up the contract, the other says they did it. But it doesn't matter, Honda engines are no longer in the back of that Kaloni. It's another Japanese manufacturer, namely Subaru, that now powers the Kaloni team, at least until the end of 1991. We'll clearly find out at the thanks of some of the competitors within the field. So we're on the final lap. Ukyo Katayama has made his way through Maggots and Beckett's under the bridge on the Hangar Straight. And it's looking very neat and tidy indeed for Ukyo Katayama as he runs through to put Honda into another Grand Prix. This will be the 7th time out of the 8 races that the Honda team have made it through to a Grand Prix start. And they've worked very hard to get there. Modena Lamborghini will be very happy with Paul Tracy, the Canadian, and Eric Bernard, the Frenchman. And then Fabrizio Babazza and Carl Bendinger have managed to put the Jordans into the British Grand Prix as well. All positive signs, all a good start to proceedings. It is going to be a victory for Ukyo Katayama in the Honda. He's done a fantastic job. He has marched away up at the front end of the field, and now he will come into the final section of the pre-qualifying. Here he comes through Luffield 2 and up to Woodcote for the last time. Ukyo Katayama in the Honda will come through to take the victory, and this time our race director is going to get the winning moment. Had some problems in Canada and France with that moment, or should I say Mexico and France problems. But there we go, a fabulous run for Ukyo Katayama as he comes through in fine style. Suzuki in second place. So excellent stuff. And a brilliant performance and a great display. So fabulous performance then from the competitors. It's Honda 1-2. It is Modena Lamborghini 3-4. And it is Jordan 5-6. They get through. Those are the three teams that go through to the Grand Prix. Coming up later, for the Retro Racing Managers League. What a fabulous run in the Grand Prix World Championship of 1991. As the marshals wave the drivers in, Katayama and Suzuki have done the job again for Honda. A few more points finishers, well, outside the top 6. You've got Tommy Byrne in 7th, Moreno is 8th, Aiello in the AGS, a very strong 9th for them. And that's the first finish for a Renault in 1991. Damon Hill brings the car home in 10th position on home soil. And he'll be very satisfied with that, I'm sure. Renault making good progress for their first finish in pre-qualifying in 1991 on only their second appearance. So all positive signs then for the Renault team. Here are the results. Katayama and Suzuki in the Hondas, then Paul Tracy and Eric Bernard in the Modenas, and then Fabrizio Barbazza and Carl Wendlinger in the Jordans. They go through to the Grand Prix. Tommy Byrne, Roberto Moreno, Laurent Aiello and Damon Hill so close, but still not close enough. The Dalaras of Nicola Larini and Emanuele Pirro, Hideki Noda, Roland Ratzenberger and Eric Comas, the only other finishers. Combinations of engine failures, water leaks, engines, transmissions, and all sorts of other maladies. Ivan Capelli actually crashed out of the race on his own. And of course, as usual, the Honda was the fastest car in the entire Grand Prix. So a fabulous run so far in pre-qualifying. There is still a race to come, but a fabulous start to the proceedings here at the home of British Motor Racing, Silverstone. The three teams that go through to the Grand Prix then are Honda, Modena and Jordan. So after a gripping run in pre-qualifying, it is back to the action here at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, and it's set to be a very competitive race weekend. After Michele Alboreto came through in fantastic style, it was a very strange race victory for Lotus in France. Now here in Silverstone, surely it's time for the Porsche Williams team to bounce back in style. Let's talk you through the starting grid then for the British Grand Prix of 1991. It's an all-Williams front row then. The Porsche Williams cars of Ayrton Senna and Thierry Boutsen on the front row of the grid. Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari and Mika Hakkinen in the Brabham are next. Then Prost's Brabham and Alboreto's Lotus again doing well in quali. Alessandro Nannini in the McLaren alongside Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari, Gerhard Berger's McLaren and Derek Warwick in the Lotus. Then Rubens Barrichello in the Red Bull Tyrrell. Martin Brundle is next up in the first of the Benettons. Much more improvement from them. Riccardo Patrese and Jean Alesi, Ligier and Red Bull Tyrrell, Eddie Irvine's Ligier and Johnny Herbert making an appearance in this Grand Prix alongside Martin Brundle in the Benetton, Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Nagori Suzuki, Nelson Piquet and Mauricio Gugelmin in the Arrows and Lola cars, Ukyo Katayama and Stefano Modena, Eric Bernard and Paul Tracy in the Modenas, and at the back of the grid, it's the Jordans of Fabrizio Barbazza and Carl Wendlinger. So the drivers will battle away again, this time for 60 laps around the Silverstone circuit, a much longer run, the actual Grand Prix. We're expecting a race distance of about an hour and 20 minutes or so. It's going to be a really interesting run for the drivers as we get ready ready for the British Grand Prix of 1991. We're off and away in racing, and Ayrton Senna in the Porsche Williams gets a perfect start. Thierry Boots and his teammate making a good run to the first corner as well as they dive into Copse Corner. And it's Alboreto has made a stunning start in the Lotus. Michele Alboreto has gone from 6th on the grid to 2nd. I'll tell you what, that shock victory in France has definitely given Michele Alboreto a little more of a confidence booster. He is up into 2nd place ahead of Schumacher in the Ferrari, so Michael Schumacher has done a great job off the grid as well. Boutsen and Mansell down to 4th and 5th. Here comes Thierry Boutsen. He's going to make the bid on Michael Schumacher in his Ferrari, and he gets through. So Schumacher is now left to deal with his teammate Nigel Mansell as they run together in 4th and 5th. Derek Warwick in the 2nd, Lotus in 6th position. I tell you what, Lotus are absolutely determined to show up Renault because they had a deal at the beginning of the year that Renault was going to be the factory outfit for Lotus, and now they've entered their own Grand Prix team. So Lotus are a little bit annoyed with Renault for doing so. They have really surged forward with their upgrades since that news came out. They want these Lotus cars to be the envy of anybody on the grid. Already there are some engine partners queuing up to team up with Lotus for 1992, the team that was on its knees at the tail end of 1989 have been completely resuscitated by Ryan Ferris. Here comes Thierry Boutsen up alongside Michele Alboreto. The superior power of the Porsche engine, and Thierry Boutsen dives in a 2nd place, so the Williams cars are 1st and 2nd for the moment. Expect them to disappear in the distance. So a fabulous run. It will be a really interesting and intriguing battle from here on out. Alboreto in front of Schumacher and Mansell. We're on board with Ricardo Patrese in the Ligier, having a steady start, but that is the 19-year-old Brazilian in front of him, Rubens Barrichello. A shock promotion to the Red Bull Tyrrell team from team boss Sam Hall, who has recently announced that the Red Bull Energy Mix company has actually purchased ownership of the Tyrrell entrant and has promised to keep the Tyrrell name in Grand Prix racing, united with Red Bull for the next, quote, 100 years, end quote. So Red Bull Tyrrell will be a name for the future as they continue together. So fascinating stuff as the competitors continue. Great dueling on this first lap as the Brabham there of Alain Prost squabbling away, but catching up with Martin Brundle in the Benetton. Finally, the Benetton team looked competitive. They had their moments in 1991, but this time is going much better for the Benetton team. They look a much quicker car. Ayrton Senna, fastest lap of the race. 3.6 seconds clear after just 2 laps, would you believe? And here comes Hakkinen trying to make his bid up the inside of Derek Warwick in the Lotus. And he does not get through. Warwick is not going to let that happen. Meanwhile, Michael Schumacher has got past Michele Alboreto's Lotus. So Schumacher up to 3rd. And Alboreto there in 4th position in the Lotus Renault. Down the hangar straight. The Williams cars are already long gone, but look at how far ahead Senna and Boutsen have pulled on the rest of the field. And there's more than one team already eyeing the Porsche Williams team and said, yes, it's nice to see them at the front, but perhaps they're a little too far in front. So this could be very interesting. And Berger all over the back of Martin Brundle. Here's Michele Alboreto in the Lotus. He's back in front of Michael Schumacher now. So Alboreto, to be a Ferrari driver, of course. He was the vice world champion in 1985. Now dueling with the Ferraris of Schumacher and Mansell. And Mansell not able to get past Michael Schumacher on that occasion. Nigel Mansell still waiting for that first British Grand Prix victory at Silverstone. Here in the 1991 British Grand Prix. He's in contention for it. It's definitely going to be tough for him to achieve it. So still they battle on. Onto the main straight they've got. Ayrton Senna. Thierry Boutsen in the Porsche Williams cars. 1st and 2nd. Here comes Mika Hakkinen. Making his bid past Derek Warwick in the Lotus. Can he get through? Can he? No, he has to hang back. So still they continue. Here's Ukyo Katayama in the Honda. Just pushing a little too hard there over the curbs. They did a great job in pre-qualifying, but once again, Honda just not quite at the same level as the cars up the road. So there is the MasterCard Lola team, which are competing in their 2nd and final British Grand Prix after CEO of Lola, Eric Broadley, decided they were going to pull out of Grand Prix racing at the end of 91 to focus their attentions on their IndyCar and Formula 2 programs for 1992. So That's definitely going to give a place on the grid to somebody else. Eddie Irvine driving up the inside now. A lot of people calling Eddie Irvine the James Hunt of the 1990s. We're only in 1991. He's certainly made very few friends in the Grand Prix paddock with his audacious driving so far. So a fabulous run as they continue away. Now here is the Jordan, battling away with the Modena of Paul Tracy. They did this in pre-qualifying and now they're battling again. Up to the inside line. Is the Jordan going to get through? Diving in at Abbey? No chance there. So still some good battles from the front of the field to the back as we are going to complete the 5th lap of the British Grand Prix. Here's Gerhard Berger in the McLaren. Driving to the inside of the Lotus. Derek Warwick. Oh! Did they just collide with each other? Goodness me, Warwick and Berger very close to each other there in the Lotus and the McLaren. So they were very, very lucky not to have too much damage there. And Alboreto, having got the Lotus back into 3rd place ahead of Michael Schumacher's Ferrari, now able to stretch his legs a little bit. This is the Lotus we've expected to see over the years, the kings of the 60s and 70s. They've had their moments in the 80s, but they look like they are returning to glory in 1991. Their first Grand Prix for quite a while. Their first Grand Prix win, I should say, for quite a while. It's great to see them winners again in 1991. Last time out, Michele Alboreto will take the victory after the mechanical failures of the Williams pair. They've got the fastest car on the grid, there's no doubt about that. As Jean Alesi is slowing, the man who's been conspicuous by his absence, and I'm afraid that's why the car clearly not going the distance on this occasion. And the Red Bull Tyrrell team, which has only recently announced that they will not have Honda engines in 1992. It's a very interesting decision from the team that has obviously had a very decent run with them. So too, of course, of the McLaren team. Tyrrell have decided with their Red Bull ownership they're not going to have Honda engines in 1992. I wonder what that will lead to. It'll be very interesting. Alboreto, Schumacher and Häkkinen. That's your top 5 at the moment because Mika Häkkinen in the Brabham has managed to get through past Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari. So we continue to run on in fine style. There is the Lola of Stefano Modena. Ferrari engines in that Lola car, but they're not really able to run where they want to run. Considering how much work is being put into that car to try and make it competitive, they've got more clients to please than just their Grand Prix fans. So Lola will not continue at the end of 1991. Again, the Alboreto hopping over the curves there. Thought for a moment the Lotus was having a difficulty. The Castrol Lotus Renault still running a very decent race at the moment. Again, the Alboreto in 3rd position behind the 2 Williams cars. The Italian, who a lot of people were suggesting might be done with Grand Prix racing very soon, certainly one of the older statesmen of the sport. Raced for Ferrari for 4 years and was the vice champion of the world, don't forget, in 1985 behind Alain Prost. Still a very talented driver. Here's Berger trying to make a bid on the other Lotus. This is Derek Warwick, but no, not going any further. There's been suggestions that Derek's younger brother Paul might get an opportunity to sample the Lotus in future races this year, although you'd have to say that as good as Paul Warwick is, and he's been absolutely mighty in Formula 3000 so far this year, you would argue really that Paul Warwick's appointment is not quite ready yet with the 2 drivers they've got doing as good a job as they are. As up the inside goes Patrese to get back past Martin Brundle in the Benetton. And we also have Nannini managing to make the overtaking move on Rubens Barrichello in the Tyrrell. There's some good performances everywhere you look. We're 1/10 of the way through this Grand Prix. There's Alessandro Nannini in the McLaren, outside the top 10 at the moment. A lot of question marks raised over Alessandro Nannini's suitability to win races for McLaren. Team boss Dave Goddard said he sensed that there was an opportunity to poach the services of Alessandro Nannini and he wanted to go with it. A bit of a tricky situation then for McLaren. Alboreto continues to run there in 3rd position, having a very solid run of it. But here is Berger trying again on Derek Warwick. Again he goes for the same move as before, and again he can't make it through. So tricky race battles going on, but watch out because you've got Prost and Patrese, two old hands of the game now. They want to move their way forward as well. Here's Mauricio Gugelmin making his way past the Honda. Oh no, he wasn't. He tried his best to, but he got chucked across there, almost lost the front wing. Eddie Irvine, Playboy Ligier, down the hanger straight. Fabulous job at the moment as he continues his run. Down over the braking zone. Slow corner on the run to the new Fayol chicane. This has been a completely re-profile British Grand Prix circuit, and so far it has garnered many an admirer. The fans love it, the drivers love it, the teams love it. So it looks as though this new upgrade for the British Grand Prix circuit at Silverstone has definitely worked. And everybody absolutely loving the racing that we've had. It was already pretty good before, but now it looks like it's even better. It's definitely a lot safer in places than it had been in previous years. So Bernard dealing away with the Jordan there of Carl Wendlinger, I think it is. With Fabrizio Barbazza just behind them. Jordans and the Moderners are essentially fighting for points today. They've just got to try and keep racing and keep pushing and keep their cars on the road. The top 10 cars score points, provided that they have covered the full 75% race distance, of course. Look at the squabble we've got going on behind Derek Warwick. Warwick really is the cork in the bottle, and look at this train of cars we've got. We've got Warwick, Prost, Berger, Patrese, Brundle, Nannini, Barrichello, Frentzen and Irvine. They all want to get past Derek Warwick. This is an absolute freight train. Several hundred horsepower involved in this one. An excellent run. With Derek Warwick hanging on to this by a thread at the moment. Prost, Berger, Patrese, Martin Brundle, Alessandro Nannini, Rubens Barrichello and Frentzen all want a piece of it as Patrese is battling with Martin Brundle. Brundle in the Benetton Porsche still trying to stay with it. The Benetton car not quite as quick as the Porsche Williams. As diving up the inside, finally, Prost is going to get the run on Warwick. So Prost gets through, and Barrichello has got through on Nannini as well. The Red Bull Tyrrell takes the McLaren of Alessandro Nannini. And there in the mix as well is Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Arrows. There is the Porsche Williams of Thierry Boutsen. And speaking of the Arrows, there is Nelson Piquet, who is becoming very disillusioned with life at the Arrows team. Now, Adrian Fernandez left the team, but rather ignominiously, they've got to keep Fernandez's sponsors happy on the car. So that's why you still see Fernandez. Oh, a spin! That is Barrichello! Barrichello's lost it right in front of them. Exuberance from the 19-year-old as Barrichello spins out of Woodcote. Well, very strange place to lose it for Rubens Barrichello. So something's not gone right there for the Tyrrell. And he rejoins in between the two Lolas. Well, that's going to make Sam Hall very unhappy. There's the new Red Bull Tyrrell team, which is now an official brand name. As Riccardo Patrese is coming to the pits with a broken front wing. Now, was that Patrese versus Barrichello? Is that the reason Barrichello ran off the road? Because they were together on the circuit, and Patrese is coming in dead last with a broken front wing. Wow, that tells a story, doesn't it? So Ligier versus Tyrrell. And then Patrese versus Barrichello. That could be an interesting story for after the race. That'll need to be investigated. The Lotus team continuing their charge forward. But at the moment it's Senna, Boutsen, Alboreto, Hakkinen and Schumacher. The top five continuing on. Mansell in P6, Prost in P7, Berger, Brundle and Nannini. We ride on board with Fabrizio Barbazza. Now that spin off the road for Patrese and Barrichello has definitely moved the points up a little bit. Nannini is back into the top 10. Irvine is in 11th. Warwick is 12th. Agoni Suzuki in the Honda is 13th. Up to 14th comes, down to 14th, I should say, comes the Arrows of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. So I wonder if he had to take avoiding action. Johnny Herbert in the second of the Benetton Porsches is in 15th. He, of course, is driving that Benetton, replacing Marc Blundell, who suffered a minor injury during the French Grand Prix. Johnny Herbert is the one who has stepped up to take over that Benetton Porsche for this weekend. Just a temporary measure, but it means he gets to drive. Oh, Senna! Senna with an engine failure! The race leader! Again! Ayrton Senna, who has dominated this race, and Eddie Irvine is slowing as well. Eddie Irvine further back in the Ligier, but Ayrton Senna, who had that fabulous run of form to win 3 races on the march. Well, he won, the Mexican and the Canadian Grand Prix, but he's not going to win at Silverstone. He is out. Ayrton Senna and Eddie Irvine on the same lap of the British Grand Prix retire. So there will be no Porsche Williams victory for Ayrton Senna. Goodness me. So that's 30 points in the championship, now lost by Ayrton Senna and the Porsche Williams team, because on 2 separate occasions now, Senna has been leading the race and he's out. So Thierry Boutsen now takes over the lead of the British Grand Prix in front of Michele Alboreto and Mika Häkkinen. And then we have the 2 Ferraris of Michael Schumacher and Nigel Mansell. 6th is Prost in the Brabham. Then Berger, Brundle, Nannini and Derek Warwick, who is dropping back rapidly now. Not entirely sure why Warwick has fallen all the way to 10th. But that has definitely shaken things up. Suzuki in 11th place. 12th is Fredson. 13th is Herbert. Nelson Piquet is having a miserable day in the office in 14th. And Ukyo Katayama in the Honda is in 15th place. Here's Michele Alboreto. He is having such a great run in 1991. After picking up a surprise win in France, he now has the pace to run for the victory. Here at Silverstone, this has completely reinvigorated the Italian, who there were some suggestions might be replaced mid-season at one stage. I don't think he will be now. After winning the French Grand Prix and certainly in contention to win this one as well. It is Alessandro Nannini in the Burger King McLaren, trying to work his way closer to the back bumper of the Apple Benetton Porsche of Martin Brundle. There is the other Porsche-powered car, the Porsche Williams of Thierry Boutsen, looking very solid and strong here for a victory. He has inherited 1 race win this year, of course. The San Marino Grand Prix Netherlands. Senna was leading on the final lap, and he had that engine failure. So that's 45 points in the championship that Senna has potentially had stripped from him in 1991. And so he will not take the lead of the Drivers' Championship from Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari today, who could extend his lead from running in 4th place. Here comes Thierry Boutsen into lap number 14, out of 60. And Fredson making his bid on the inside of Aguri Suzuki. Dives in, gets the place. Johnny Herbert slowing. Johnny Herbert is not going to score points on his home Grand Prix. So the Benetton pulls off the circuit and retires now as well. Well, it's a high attrition British Grand Prix. We did think that this new layout was definitely going to catch teams out. I'm afraid Johnny Herbert will not make the flag of the British Grand Prix. Team boss Lucy Ball-Wood is definitely going to be bitterly disappointed about that. But there is your team for Brabham, as Johnny Herbert's car, as you can see there, is being maneuvered out of position. Thierry Boutsen of the Williams now leads up with his teammate Ayrton Senna, has dropped out of the British Grand Prix on only lap 11. Stress after its run in France, which also led to mechanical problems. Not at all be surprised if that Porsche Williams ends up having some upgrades ahead of the next race in the championship, which of course is on the brutal Hockenheim ring in Germany. Flat on the front for most of the lap. That's going to punish so many engines this time out. Fascinating Grand Prix in Germany, that's for sure. Even here at Silverstone, particularly being pushed to their absolute limits. Boutsen leads. Alboreto second. Häkkinen is third. Here is Mika Häkkinen, the reigning world champion, the first ever rookie champion. A real shock in 1990. Brabham driver going well. He now closes up on Michele Alboreto. Nice to see him challenging for a victory again. He's had a bit of a tough start to the season as Mika Häkkinen. Here is Nigel Mansell though. The fans go bananas for him as he runs through Maggots and through Beckett's. This new section of the circuit. Thierry Boutsen continues his run. Here comes Fredson. Now Fredson's making his bid for Derek Warwick. Can't get through. So that Lotus is really causing a bit of a headache for everybody. Warwick was holding a bit of a traffic jam up earlier, and it just continues on little bit further into the race now as Katayama looks like he's about to lose out to the Lola. No, he's not. Katayama very determined to hold on to that position. So poor Tracy in the Modena Lamborghini, still going well in 18th, looking for a top 10 finish. Long way still to go, and with the high attrition rate of this British Grand Prix, anything's still possible. You've just got to keep racing, keep the car on the road, and hope that your racecraft and your pit stop strategy are going to bring you back into play. He's not that far away from the Lolas. So if the Modena team get their pit stop strategy right, anything's possible. As into the pits comes the race leader Thierry Boutsen and also Mika Hakkinen in the Brabham. So it looks like they've both pitted together. So Boutsen is in and Hakkinen is in, and that gives the lead of the race for the moment to Michele Alboreto in the Lotus, ahead of Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari. We ride on board with Frank Howard Frentzen in the first of the Arrows cars. And he is trying to make the move on Derek Warwick. So for the second race in a row, a Lotus is leading a Grand Prix. Team boss Ryan Ferris is going to be delighted with that. In contention to hunt for the victory. Even if they don't win the British Grand Prix, the Lotus team have definitely made a massive climb up. Now Boutsen has rejoined just in front of Alain Prost as Frentzen hits in the Arrows. There is Nigel Mansell, third position in the British Grand Prix before the pit stops. We apologise there for the slight technical difficulties. Apologies everybody, we have now managed to get the coverage back of the British Grand Prix. Apparently Dave in the truck managed to trip over the wrong wire, unfortunately. And so we have now been able to get the Grand Prix back to your screens. You haven't missed much, but Alboreto is still leading at this stage of the Grand Prix in front of Schumacher and Mansell. Prost in fourth position. Boutsen in fifth place after the pit stops. He rejoined just in front of Alain Prost, but Prost has now managed to get back through past him into fourth position. That's the only thing that you've really missed, but that did happen off camera, so in reality, you haven't missed much. Oh, there is the battle going on. You've just seen there, Boutsen getting back through on Alain Prost. So that has worked out very well indeed for the Belgian, not so much for the Frenchman, as here comes Nelson Piquet. He seems to have been rejuvenated a little bit now, dueling away with Aguri Suzuki in the Honda. So continuing, having a bit of a tough moment out there on the course. And it looks like Fabrizio Barbazza's in trouble. The Jordan is in trouble. Oh, that's very unfortunate. Fabrizio Barbazza has now dropped the Jordan out of this Grand Prix. So the Italian is out here at Silverstone as Gerhard Berger comes into the pits in the McLaren on lap 18 of this British Grand Prix. We're almost at 1/3 distance. So through the challenges continue here at Silverstone, but Barbazza is not going to be one of them as Aguri Suzuki comes into the pits. He's going to drop down to about 15th place behind Stefano Modena in the Lola. And there is Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari. The crowds are loving this. Really enjoying the scrap of positions here for Nigel Mansell in third place. As there is Mauricio Gugelmin and his teammate Stefano Modena. Both drivers are going to need to find new jobs for 1992 because the Lola team will not be continuing into 1992. So the Lola fans enjoying their last British Grand Prix. And there's Nigel Mansell. Into the pits comes Alboreto. The race leader comes in, and so does Michael Schumacher. So the fans can go ballistic now. Nigel Mansell is leading the British Grand Prix, and that's a Ligier in trouble. That's got to be Patrese because Irvine's already out. So Patrese, who spun off in his duel with Rubens Barrichello, is now going to drop out of the race. So Riccardo Patrese, who was a lap down anyway, no points for Ligier today. Very disappointing indeed for the French team. Mansell, Boutsen, Prost, Nannini, Brundle and Alboreto is the order. Because Mansell leads, having not yet come into the pits. Thierry Boutsen is rejoined from his pit stop in second place. That's a Ferrari! That's a Ferrari smoking! Is that Schumacher? Is that the championship leader? Well, Riccardo Patrese certainly pulling out. The Ligier on fire. What is happening here at the British Grand Prix? Michael Schumacher's just come into the pits and it looks as though something's come wrong on the way out of the pit stop. So Michael Schumacher is dropping back rapidly, I believe. I'm fairly sure it's the Ferrari. I mean, is it Schumacher or is it Mansell? Well, we're watching the Ligier dropped back and out of the race, but there was definitely a red car smoking as it came through, so I wonder, is it going to be Mansell or is it going to be Schumacher? I think it's Michael Schumacher. It is! It's Michael Schumacher, the championship leader. He will also not score points. So at least Ayrton Senna will not lose too many points to the championship leader, Michael Schumacher, because he will not finish the Grand Prix either. So it's all stalemate in the title fight as they head to Michael Schumacher's home race. Next time out, the German Grand Prix. Well, cars really are dropping out of this race. And Aguri Suzuki is out of the race now in the Honda. So Suzuki out of the race as well. Cars are dropping out of this race all over the shop. So I'm trying to think now how many cars we've actually got. Remember, the top 10 are eligible for points, provided that they complete the full race distance. Or at least they have to complete enough of the race distance to be eligible for the points. So Eric Bernard leads the challenge for a Modena Lamborghini now. Oh no, sorry, he doesn't, because his teammate Paul Tracy is a couple of places in front of him. So the Honda team are close to scoring a point, even with Aguri Suzuki dropping out of the race. Kazuki Katayama is just one place away from the top 10. Despite his spin earlier on, Rubens Barrichello is back into the top 10. That shows you how quick the young 19-year-old is. He's managed to get himself back into contention only half a minute off the race leader, Nigel Mansell. Well, with two of the big players out of this race, Michael Schumacher and Ayrton Senna, the top two drivers in the championship, this British Grand Prix has suddenly been blown wide open. Nigel Mansell, though, the fans are loving this. Their man, our Nige, is leading the British Grand Prix. And boy, would it be a wonderful, joyous moment if he were to take it. As Martin Brundle comes into the pits in the Benetton Porsche. There's Eric Bernard that we're looking at now, the Modena Lamborghini. A couple of teams finding that chicane a little bit tricky. But it's certainly given us plenty of excitement. So the battles continue. There's Eric Bernard having his moment or two. But the Modena Lamborghini still going very well indeed here. And they're looking to bring both cars into the points at this stage. There's Thierry Luton, second position in the Porsche Williams, but let's not forget that the race leader, Nigel Mansell, has not yet pitted. We want Martin Brundle and Gerhard Berger renew their battle after the pit stops. Now, both of these guys will get back into the points when the one-stoppers make their visit to the pits. Berger's got a lot more straight line speed. Oh, Honda won't score any points today. Ukyo Katayama out of the race now. So Ukyo Katayama out. No points for Honda in the British Grand Prix. So yet another retirement from this race then. They are dropping like stones here. Big disaster for several teams and several drivers in this British Grand Prix. As we complete 1/3 distance now, we're on lap 22. This race is looking likely to be about who can still stay on the track. As Alessandro Nannini in the McLaren comes into the pits from what was P5. So that promotes Hakkinen. It also promotes Warwick. Now, interestingly, Alain Prost was one of the first drivers to pit. He has managed to get ahead of Alboreto and Hakkinen, so this is great news for Alain Prost. He's really been working hard here during the pit stop phase, quietly getting on with it, as Nannini, Piquet and Barrichello all come into the pits. And that's at 1/3 distance, so that would suggest they might be on two-stop strategies as well after all then. Just going a slightly different tack to some of the other teams out there. Paul Tracy is in the pits in 15th position now. And Nelson Piquet, I think, coming into the pits. So Nelson Piquet having rejoined behind Eric Bernard. This is very frustrating for the three-time world champion Nelson Piquet as Martin Brundle dives in on the inside line. Alboreto, 4th position. Still, they continue to charge their way through on the far side of the course. Going very well indeed for Michele Alboreto and the latest team. Top 5 likely in the Grand Prix, but for the moment they're looking at 3rd position net because that man in front of them, Alain Prost, has managed to leapfrog past both his teammate Mika Hakkinen and the French Grand Prix winner Michele Alboreto to move up into 3rd position at the moment, 2nd place next once Mansell pits. But obviously Mansell is who's actually in a good position to win this Grand Prix because he's on a one-stop strategy by the look of it. Boutsen, Prost, Alboreto and Hakkinen have all got to pit again. So actually, the British fans have every reason to be happy with this because Nigel Mansell might be on the winning strategy in the Ferrari on home soil as well. That would be pretty special. There is the Jordan of Karl Wendlinger, the Austrian. Still doing a fair job, the Jordan Ferrari, looking very neat and tidy at this moment in time. Looking to continue this solid force and solid run up the grid. And still, they battle on, the competitors here at Silverstone, the home of British motor racing. Alain Prost is third position. Third times Grand Prix World Champion, 1985, 1986 and 1989. Alain Prost still feels he's got at least one more World Championship in him. He has to wait for the opportunity to come to him. Certainly at the moment the two good drivers in the championship fight are Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari and Ayrton Senna in the Porsche Williams. Dramatically here at Silverstone, both drivers are out of the race in separate mechanical failures. So now it all comes down to who's got the car that can go the longest in the British Grand Prix. Nigel Mansell leads. He has not pitted. He's on a one-stop strategy by the look of it. Thierry Boutsen, Alain Prost. Oh, that's Martin Brundle out. No points for Benetton. A good effort from the Benetton team this time. They had two semi-competitive cars this time. But Martin Brundle doesn't go the distance either. Wow. Are we even going to get 10 cars to the finish of this Grand Prix at this rate? Because the top 10 are the ones that score points, don't forget. But Martin Brundle is now out of it. So more and more cars drop out of this British Grand Prix as we look at Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Arrows, having a very solid time in 11th position. He says he likes the car quite a lot. However, says the exact opposite. The 3 times world champion has just voiced frustration after frustration after frustration. He's not happy with the way things are going. We watch as Thierry Boutsen, running in second place, is actually losing time to Nigel Mansell, not gaining time. So the Porsche Williams, with Ayrton Senna behind the wheel, is very quick indeed. But with Boutsen behind the wheel, he just doesn't quite seem to be able to match Nigel Mansell. But don't forget, he's not only on a lighter fuel load, but he's on older tyres, so that should negate things a little bit. But clearly a lighter Ferrari is better than a fresher tyred Ferrari. So now we're watching the duel between Prost and Alboreto. Alboreto and Prost fought for the 1985 World Championship. Now they're fighting for the 1991 podium in the British Grand Prix. And I think Alboreto got the move there on Prost at the end of the straight. We were too busy watching the other Brit in the top 6, Derek Warwick, that we missed Alboreto getting through on Alain Prost, but that's a critical overtake in this Grand Prix. As Michele Alboreto puts the Lotus back into a competitive position for the second race in a row. So excellent stuff for the Lotus team. As there we go, there's the confirmation. Alboreto now in third, in front of Prost and Hakkinen. Team Brabhams. Here's Rubens Barrichello, the Red Bull Tyrrell. Great performance from the 19-year-old. He was definitely a star in the making, isn't he, the Brazilian? The only teenager on the grid. He's currently running in 12th position. He had a spin earlier on as well, don't forget. So without that spin, Rubens Barrichello might be quite a long way up in the points here, probably about 8th or 9th. So there is the British driver Nigel Mansell, who has pulled 12.3 seconds clear now of Thierry Boutsen. And it's looking good for Ferrari number 14 to go for the victory here in the British Grand Prix. A very satisfactory scenario. So there is Nigel Mansell having a great race of it at the moment. Boutsen in second. And Alboreto as Frentzen overcooks the hours a little bit. Just about saves it though. Major shocks. Just keep it together, Heinz-Harald. Just one place off the points. And quite a critical position to be as well. The former Tyrrell driver now actually ahead of the moment Tyrrell in the race. Give Frentzen plenty of ammunition to keep driving his way forward. As Alboreto continues in fine style. Mansell, Boutsen, Alboreto, Prost and Hakkinen. That's your top 5. The top 10 is completed by Derek Warwick in the other Lotus. Sandro Nannini in the McLaren. Stefano Modena, who's about to lose 8th position to Gerhard Berger. Berger in the McLaren goes by. So now he's got to catch up to his teammate Nannini. Modena is in 9th place. Frentzen is now in 10th because we've had another pit stop, I think. So yeah, we've had Mauricio Gugelmin, I think, come into the pits, and so too Paul Tracy. Mika Hakkinen lapping the Jordan. Goes through in the final start. So Mika Hakkinen, the Finnish driver, goes up into, well, he was already into 5th position, of course. But now it's well and truly nailed on at this moment in time. As the battles continue. Still some great racing as they squabble away in position. So a fascinating run so far. Mansell is your leader, Boutsen in 2nd position. And Alboreto, Prost, Warwick. Then it's Nannini, Berger, Frentzen and Modena who has come into the pits. So Modena pits in from 9th. That promotes Frentzen and Barrichello. Here's Thierry Boutsen coming up to lap one of the Modenas. That's got to be Paul Tracy, I do believe, the Canadian. And we're looking at Carl Wendlinger, the Austrian, in the Jordan, who has got the other Modena Lamborghini behind him, Derek Bernard, and I think that is the last man in the race. As in comes Nigel Mansell. Mansell pits in. Now he's pitted in at the end of lap 27. So that tells us that he was on a slightly lighter than half-distance fuel strategy. He's got to go heavy then in the final stint of the Grand Prix. On a one-stop strategy, he's got to go with a very heavy Ferrari to finish off the race, as has Alain Prost in the Brabham. So actually, Prost is on a one-stop strategy as well. I thought Prost had already pitted, but apparently not. So Prost is not having as good a Grand Prix as I thought he was going to. So that promotes Boutsen to the lead, Alboreto to 2nd, and Mika Hakkinen in the Brabham to 3rd, as Mansell rejoins in 4th, just ahead of fellow Brit Derek Warwick. And so the battle of the Brits continues. This time they're going to go wheel to wheel. Mansell and Warwick down the hanger straight. And is Warwick going to have an opportunity here to pass Nigel Mansell into the hairpin? Yes, he is. Derek Warwick gets into 4th position. So a fabulous run so far as Derek Warwick battles away into 4th position past Nigel Mansell, and the British drivers continue their fabulous charge forward. The hairpin along the straight up to the chicane. Here is Mika Hakkinen in the Brabham. And here's Barrichello. He's about to pass Frentzen for 9th place. So 2 points for Tyrrell rather than 1 at the moment. Frentzen in the Arrows drops back to P10. The other Arrows, by the way, is Nelson Piquet, and he's in 11th, just 1 place away from championship points. And that's not really what Nelson Piquet signed up to do Grand Prix racing for in 1991. I think he wanted to win Grand Prix. He's not been in a position to do so yet this year. But Thierry Boutsen beats Michele Alboreto by 6 seconds, and still they're battling, Warwick and Mansell. They're still battling away for 4th position as we now approach half distance in the British Grand Prix. So Boutsen 6 seconds ahead of Alboreto. Hakkinen is 3rd, Warwick is 4th, Mansell is 5th, and Alessandro Nannini in 6th position. Then Prost, Berger, Barrichello and Frentzen are your point scorers as it stands at this moment. There's still quite a fair way to go in this Grand Prix. A lot can still happen here in the 1991 British Grand Prix. Belgian having a very solid race of it. Fantastic run. Well, Alain Prost is having a really great race of it so far. And a very exciting battle as the competitors continue in fine style around this brand new configuration of the British Grand Prix. It's a very different configuration to what they've seen before. So they continue in fantastic battles again through to the chicane. And is Michele Alboreto, 2nd position, and actually gaining on Thierry Boutsen. Now that is interesting. So the Porsche Williams, as Derek Warwick comes into the pits, very interesting, because it looks to me as though we are having a very different run of it now. I would say that the Lotus is actually looking a stronger car at the moment than the either that or Thierry Boutsen is just struggling in the traffic a little bit more than Michele Alboreto is. But that gap has definitely come down to 5.6 seconds. Alboreto in the Lotus is having a great run at the moment. This is exactly what they wanted in the middle of the season. Lotus have suddenly become a factor in this 1991 season, and that repays all the hard work of Ryan Ferris. Excellent racing so far. A terrific battle going on at this moment in time. And a great run. So still leading the way. So now we ride on board with Stefano Modena, the Italian. Having a very cool race battle at the moment. Still, they contend this victory. Mika Häkkinen, third position, as we have now gone to the half-distance point. We're halfway through this Grand Prix. Boutsen, Alboreto, Häkkinen, Mansell and Nannini. And it looks like Prost has lost sixth position to Gerhard Berger in the McLaren. Now, Prost is out! Prost is out! The Brabham has gone. So Alain Prost is out of the British Grand Prix. Another big name falls. So Alain Prost, 3 times world champion, is out of the British Grand Prix of 1991, and that will just add more fuel to the fiery rumours that Alain Prost is getting more and more irate with the way that this new Grand Prix formula is working against him. Oh, that's a Jordan in trouble! A Jordan in flames pulling out of the race as well. So this is yet more devastation to the Grand Prix grid, and it's Karl Wendlinger. So the Austrian, I mean, they were only looking really to score points if they just managed to survive the Grand Prix. So they haven't quite got the competitive car to go the distance and be competitive in the points. But to finish first you must finish, as they say. So a really stunning run for the drivers so far. But Boutsen in front of Alboreto. And Boutsen has now pulled out the gap again on Alboreto. The gap's up to 7.2 seconds again now. So it does look as though it was traffic that really held up Thierry Boutsen rather than the Lotus getting a bit more pace on the Porsche Williams. That will surely put Scott Woodward's team boss at Porsche Williams' mind at rest. Obviously working in conjunction with Sir Frank Williams. Here are the two Lolas, and they're looking like they could be on for points here. Gugelmin and Modena, 11th and 12th now. Just by staying in the race, they've got a really good shot at this now. 11th and 12th position. Paul Tracy is 13th. Bernard is 14th. I'm fairly sure that's it. I don't think there are any more cars in this Grand Prix. I think we've only got 14 left. As Rubens Barrichello goes through Maggots and Beckett's in the Red Bull Tyrrell, now looking at 7th position. A very solid run for the Red Bull Tyrrell. Well, if you are one of the next 4 drivers to retire from the race, you're going to be absolutely gutted because, to my mathematics, there are only 14 cars running in the 1991 British Grand Prix. And Thierry Boutsen is currently leading it for Porsche Williams. But everybody is on tenterhooks here. Who is going to finish the British Grand Prix? Never mind who's going to win it. It is really, really tough stuff at the moment. So a very interesting situation. We've had some interesting news that has broken mid-race, actually. It's emerged that the Minardi team is not going to renew its sponsorship deal with the Glenfiddich brand, who were rather hoping for a little bit more for the British Grand Prix. So that must have come just after pre-qualifying, that statement. It's happened now laps Paul Tracy in the Modena. And apparently, Bernd Schneider is going to replace Eric Komas for the Grand Prix, so he gets to race on home soil. Fascinating stuff then, emerging mid-race during this British Grand Prix. Always fascinating when things like that happen in the middle of the race. As Alboreto pushes a bit too hard there in the chicane. So he's going to have to continue a little further up, work a little bit harder on. So the battles continue, but it is very tight at the moment. So let's see how it all continues to unravel. Häkkinen, third position. Thierry Boutsen is currently 8.2 seconds ahead of Michele Alboreto, but don't forget we have still got this second round of pit stops. Nigel Mansell may still have a chance to get a podium from this Grand Prix. He's currently in 4th, but he's only 10 seconds back from Häkkinen, and he's only 16 seconds, roughly. 14 seconds, I should say, back from Alboreto. So Mansell is still a contender for the Grand Prix victory. There's no doubting that. Oh, but Paul Tracy isn't. The Modena Lamborghini is on fire. And so Paul Tracy becomes yet another retirement in this brutal British Grand Prix. It is literally stripping cars from this race like wallpaper. Absolutely astonishing as more and more cars drop out of this brutal 1991 British Grand Prix. So now there are just 13 cars left to run the British Grand Prix of 1991 as Paul Tracy retires. The Canadian frustrated, no doubt, knowing that that was probably the Modena team's best chance of getting a point this season. Certainly one of them. The only 3 cars running outside the points now were the 2 Lolas of Mauricio Gugelmin and Stefano Modena and Eric Bernard in the Modena Lamborghini. No Jordans, no Hondas, and only 1 Modena of the cars that pre-qualified. So this race is definitely going to take more scalps as there goes the there goes the Lotus of Michele Alboreto lapping the Lola of Mauricio Gugelmin, I do believe, as Thierry Boutsen continues to lead this Grand Prix, 8.6 ahead of Michele Alboreto. And so now they run, doing a fabulous run. Alboreto is actually only 4 seconds ahead of Mika Häkkinen in the Brabham. So that could actually change hands again for second place. As Berger, careful Gerhard, he almost dropped it through Kopp's corner. And the McLarens are on for a double points finish here. They've actually got a really strong chance in both the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship, purely based on the fact that they are so good at bringing these cars home in the points. They've had a very solid run so far in the first 7 races of 1991. So they continue to do so. McLaren may suddenly have something to do with the Constructors' Championship fight in 1991. So Boutsen is 8.7 seconds ahead of Michele Alboreto. And I am told that a very bitter Ayrton Senna has actually left the circuit already. Well, he did retire about 24 laps ago while leading the British Grand Prix of 1991. Very unfortunate, very unhappy, and definitely not where he wanted to be. So still they run. Mika Häkkinen, 3rd position. Chasing down Michele Alboreto. Last year's world champion may have something to say about the fate of this Grand Prix yet. Alboreto is pushing. He's dropping back to now 9 seconds deficit to Thierry Boutsen in the Williams. But that's not his biggest worry right now. His biggest worry right now is actually the man behind him, Mika Häkkinen in the Brabham. There he is. Look, he's pushing big time. Locks up into the Vale. He's trying to close up. It's a great chance for the Brabham. They won the Monaco Grand Prix this year with Alain Prost. So the Brabham can win Formula 1 races. There's no doubt about that. But if Mika Häkkinen could go for the win here, that really would give them plenty to be happy about. And that's Mansell! Mansell is off! Nigel Mansell will not contest the British Grand Prix. Oh, the fans devastated. Absolutely devastated. Nigel Mansell drops Ferrari out of the British Grand Prix. Now, I couldn't see there really whether that was mechanical failure or whether that was driver error. But it doesn't matter. Nigel Mansell is out of the British Grand Prix. And so now it becomes a pretty straightforward affair for Thierry Boutsen. All he's got to do is have a solid pit stop and keep the car on the straight and narrow. And this British Grand Prix is going the way of Porsche Williams. That changes everything, I'm afraid. Nigel Mansell was the danger man in terms of being the only one-stop strategy runner still in this hunt for the victory. But with Nigel Mansell gone and any chance of him winning his home Grand Prix now evaporating, that is so devastating. You got to feel for the fans who are rooting for and cheering him on, and for the Scuderia, hoping for another victory. We haven't had a Grand Prix victory this year since the second race in the championship in Brazil. So Brabham now. He already was, but the McLarens are looking good. They've moved up to 4th and 5th as a result of Mansell's retirement. Barrichello is now 6th, Frentzen is now 7th, Warwick is 8th, Piquet is 9th, and the Lola team are looking good for a point in 10th with Mauricio Gugelmin. Stefano Modena is 11th, Eric Bernard in the Modena itself is in 12th, and that's it. There are no other drivers in this race. So incredibly, we have had 14 retirements, and we've only just recently gone past half distance, if you remember. So this race is full on attrition on a very hot July day here in Silverstone. The gap has opened up now to nearly 10 seconds between Boutsen and Alboreto. It's looking pretty straightforward in this Grand Prix. The closest battle we seem to have on track at the moment appears to be the 6th position, and that is between Rubens Barrichello, the 19-year-old, in the Red Bull Tyrrell, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen, another youngster in the Arrows. And that is Gerhard Berger into the pits. So Gerhard Berger, the Austrian, has brought the McLaren into the pits from P5. Michele Alboreto nearly dropping the Lotus there in his bid to stay with Thierry Boutsen and not fall into the clutches of Mika Häkkinen. Having said that though, Häkkinen's lost a lot of time in the traffic. He was only about 4 seconds back from Alboreto. He's now about 6 seconds back. So I wonder where he lost some of that time. I also wonder, to a certain extent, where Mika Häkkinen is losing that sort of ground. Well, Alboreto has now had a very tough lap as well. He's lost about 2 seconds, Thierry Boutsen, on that last lap. So the gap is now 11 seconds between Boutsen and Alboreto as we ride on board with Thierry Boutsen in the Williams. Häkkinen in 3rd. Nannini is 4th. Here's Rubens Barrichello. He is a future world champion in the making, isn't it? There's no doubt about it. 19-year-old Rubens Barrichello from Sao Paulo in Brazil. Really showcasing that he's got a massive future. They said that Team Boss Sam Hall was pretty bonkers to put a 19-year-old who'd only done a few Formula 3 races into his Tyrrell team. He said, no, trust me, this boy is worth looking at. So Rubens Barrichello is proving the doubters wrong. Boutsen! Boutsen is out! Both Williams cars are out of the British Grand Prix. Well, Porsche Williams will not score points. Oh my goodness. So that promotes Michele Alboreto to the lead of a Grand Prix for the 2nd race in a row. Williams are out. Ferrari are out. Benetton are out. My goodness, some big scalps in the 1991 British Grand Prix. As now Michele Alboreto leads, and it looks like both Lolas are going to score points in the British Grand Prix, their last British Grand Prix. Wow. A fascinating scenario as Alboreto comes into the pits. Alboreto does a very solid job in the lead there, and then comes into the pits. Nannini comes into the pits now as well. From what is 3rd position, it looks as though it's going to be a podium for McLaren after all of this. So Häkkinen takes over the lead, but only for the moment, because obviously Häkkinen will need to make his 2nd and final pit stop as well. And we're on lap 40 out of 60. There are still 20 laps to go in the British Grand Prix, and we've only got 11 cars running it. This is the pottiest of races. And still, they battle on. So who is still in the race? Well, we've got 2 McLarens, we've got 2 Lotuses, and we've got 2 Arrows, as well as 2 Lolas. So the other teams that have only got 1 car in it now are Brabham for Mika Häkkinen, Tyrrell for Rubens Barrichello, and Modena for Eric Bernard. Baffling, as Piquet comes into the pits in the Arrows, that will drop him to 8th position. Will the Lolas overtake him? I think they probably will, as Mika Häkkinen comes into the pits in the Brabham. Briefly leading, as Rubens Barrichello, the 19-year-old, is now 3rd. That is amazing for the young Sao Paulo teenager. Excellent work from the Tyrrell star, as Rubens Barrichello continues to pound around this Silverstone circuit, looking after the car not getting flustered. Yes, he had a spin earlier on, but considering he's 19 and he's at least 10 years younger than a lot of the drivers in this Grand Prix, he's put on a great show. As Alboreto takes back the lead of the British Grand Prix, can Lotus make it 2 wins in a row? When a few races ago, they were not looking even close to the win. As into the pits comes Barrichello, so he was in 3rd position for 1 lap. As now back onto the podium comes Alessandro Nannini in the McLaren. Well, that's great news for the Italian, and he needed that kind of a result as well. There's a lot of doubters in Nannini. But here he comes. And there's another car in trouble in the background. Is that one of the Lotuses? Is that Derek Warwick? I think that's Warwick, you know. So Eric Bernard and the Modena team may be about to score a championship point after all. It was looking almost impossible for them to do so, but I think they're in the contention to do so. Mind you, they've got to complete the full race distance in order to be eligible for the point. Now this is where we need some Tom Cairns style mathematics to see what lap they need to complete to be eligible for the points. It needs to be 75% race distance. That is Derek Warwick. So there will be no British drivers finishing the British Grand Prix, and we only have 10 cars left. Derek Warwick is out of the British Grand Prix on only lap 42. What is going on at Silverstone? Car after car after car retires from the British Grand Prix, and now it's just a case of who comes home. This could be Monaco 82 all over again. Alboreto leads Häkkinen by 5.5 seconds. Nannini is 21 seconds back from the race lead in 3rd position. Gerhard Berger is up to 4th. Rubens Barrichello in the Tyrrell is now in 5th from Frentzen and Piquet in the 2 Arrows cars. Gugelmin and Modena in the Lolas are in 8th and 9th, and in 10th position is Eric Bernard in the Modena Lamborghini. However, they will not be eligible for points if they cannot complete a certain amount of laps in this race. So just being in the top 10 is not going to be good enough. What an amazing situation. So Sam Hall tells us that lap 43 to 44 is 75% distance. So if these cars are able to go just a little bit further into the race, then they'll all be eligible for points. Ed Spencer tells us it would be lap 45. Lap 45, and they'll be eligible for points in this race. However, all the cars have to complete lap 45, which means that Bernard, who is a lap down, would have to wait until Alboreto completed lap 46 in order to be eligible for the points. So all 10 of these cars have got to stay on the road for another 4 laps, and Barrichello nearly chucks it off the road in the process. What a crazy Grand Prix this is. And we are not even sure yet if all of the cars are going to score points. There are only 10 left, only 10 can score points, but we're not sure yet if all 10 of them are going to be eligible for points. They've got to complete 45 laps in order to do so. There is Alessandro Nannini in the McLaren. Things are getting very interesting indeed here as they continue to battle away for the British Grand Prix. Michele Alboreto leads by just 5 seconds. Careful, Michele. Oh dear. Oh, Alboreto pushing hard. He knows that a win is on the cards now in front of Mika Häkkinen, with Alessandro Nannini in 3rd position. Lotus runs out in the lead, and you've got to feel a little bit nervous if you are Michele Alboreto, because Derek Warwick has just had a major engine failure. Down in 4th position, what was 4th position, is that Gugelmin slowing in the Lola. Don't tell me Gugelmin's having a problem. He was quite slow into Beckett's. Well, he seems to be on the run here. That's okay for the moment, I think. But Mauricio Gugelmin in the Lola, obviously off the pace compared to his teammate. Stefano Modena is not far away. There is Michele Alboreto, the race leader in the Lotus. Still we plough on. Lap 43 has been completed. If everybody completes this lap and then the 2 after that, then everybody still in the race will be eligible for points, even if they don't see the checkered flag. What a crazy race this is. A slight tweak to the regulations that allows that to happen, by the way, if there are fewer than the points scored finishes. As long as everybody's completed 75% distance, then they can be eligible for points, even if they are not classified as a finisher. As long as they completed 75% race distance in that bizarre situation, they do still get to score championship points for both team and driver. It's not guaranteed until the race leader has completed lap 46 if you are Modena and Bernard, lap 45 if you are everybody else. Well, what a bizarre turn of events here at the British Grand Prix. Alessandro Nannini, third position in the McLaren, ahead of his teammate Gerhard Berger. They are the team that is set to score big points from all this. It's the McLaren team. They are just quietly banging in those points through the course of the season. Frentzen nearly doesn't in the Arrows BMW. Oh, that's a way to frighten everybody as Heinz Frentzen nearly throws it into the wall. Just to keep it together, the young German. Nelson Piquet, his teammate, is 12 seconds behind him. That's going to be very bitter reading for the three-times world champion. As Mauricio Gugelmin is lapped here by Michele Alboreto, the race leader. And look, there is Häkkinen, just 3.6 seconds back. So this British Grand Prix is alive and kicking still. Häkkinen is trying to close up on Alboreto. But of course, he's just been held up by a pair of Lolas. So if Häkkinen isn't held up by quite as much, then this could be a really intriguing battle all the way to the finish. McLaren's 20 seconds back from these. They've got very solid cars, but they're not very quick at the moment. Maybe they'll come on for a late surge at the end of the season as Häkkinen laps the Lola of Stefano Modena without too much drama. That's good news for Brabham. It means they will not lose anywhere near the amount of time that Alboreto just did, and the gap is 2.3 seconds at the line. So Alboreto is pushing hard in the Lotus to try and get away from the Brabham Ilmore of Mika Häkkinen. Down to Stowe. 45 laps completed by Alboreto. So all of the top 7 are going to be eligible for points, whatever happens. So as long as Gugelmin, Modena and Bernard come through, all of the cars that are on track are going to be eligible for championship points. But I have a feeling there's still going to be a few rather sorry faces at this Grand Prix. No Benettons have taken the finish, no Ferraris have taken the finish, no Williamses have taken the finish. And Michele Alboreto in the Lotus is running scared here up at the front. This is a very tough race now, as everybody is trying to keep this together. But out in front, Michele Alboreto is 2.7 seconds on Häkkinen. So Häkkinen seems to have been held up a little by Gugelmin. As Häkkinen comes through, now he's dealt with them. And there you can see, Alboreto has completed lap 46. So too has Häkkinen, so too has both the Lolas and Eric Bernard. So I can tell you that every single car in this race is now eligible for championship points, even if they are not classified as a race finisher. Well, that's a rare occurrence in Grand Prix racing these days, to have to wait for that scenario to occur. And we've got just 14 laps to go in the British Grand Prix of 1991, as Berger nearly trips over Bernard, as the Modena Lamborghini team are now, as Barrichello slips through to take on Berger, the Modena Lamborghini team will be delighted. They cheer on the pit wall, as they are now guaranteed a point. Excellent work from the Modena Lamborghini team to keep it going. Barrichello tries on Berger through Maggots and Beckett. Rubens Barrichello is determined to go for fourth position. He senses he can do this now, and he's going to take on Gerhard Berger. Here he goes, and the Red Bull Tyrrell is going to make the move up the inside as Rubens Barrichello passes the McLaren. Absolutely amazing from Rubens Barrichello, the 19-year-old wunderkind. Absolutely amazing. And there is Eric Bernard. He is breaking down. He's gone as far as the Modena can go. 10th position. And they're out. But he still gives the Modena Lamborghini team a championship point. Gets out of the car, waves to the crowd. It's almost as if the Modena was waiting for Eric Bernard to complete his 45th lap. and then finally conked out. Well, just 9 cars running, but at least Eric Bernard will score a championship point, as will the Modena Lamborghini team. And so will everybody else who comes through now. So the wait is over as Modena gets their first point in Formula One. A big moment. Well, Sam Hall has given clear instructions to Rubens Barrichello. Chase down the podium. That's Alessandro Nini in third position. 24 seconds ahead with 13 laps to go. Surely that's not possible. But they have instructed Rubens to just give it gung-ho and go for it. Barretto, 2.7 seconds ahead of Häkkinen. And not a lot of traffic to deal with for quite a while now, because Nelson Piquet is a good 10 seconds up the road from Alboreto and setting comparable lap times. So now this is a straight fight for the British Grand Prix victory between Michele Alboreto in the Lotus and Mika Häkkinen in the Brabham. And Häkkinen is closing. Häkkinen is closing on Alboreto. This is exactly what the Brabham team wanted, a race for the victory. And the reigning world champion, Mika Häkkinen, the first ever rookie champion, is going after Michele Alboreto for the victory of the British Grand Prix with 12 laps to go here at Silverstone in one of the most dramatic conclusions to a Grand Prix World Championship race ever. Alboreto, 2.5 in front of Mika Häkkinen. And team boss at Brabham, Ewan Gale, has made it quite clear to Mika Häkkinen. He's given the same instruction as Sam Hall. Let rip. Go for victory. That's Gugelmin. Well, Gugelmin is not quite going to go the distance. So that's a 9th place guaranteed for Lola. They were 8th and 9th anyway, but Gugelmin will not go the distance of this British Grand Prix. So now there are just 8 cars running in the British Grand Prix of 1991. Wow. You've got to go all the way back to 1982, the Monaco Grand Prix, when there were just a handful of finishers. Looks as though we're going to go the same way here in Silverstone in 1991. It's a very hot day here, though. Hotter than I think anybody envisaged it was going to be. It's really taken its toll on the cars. As Mauricio Gugelmin is going to conk out. Oh dear, the car is on fire now. That's Frentzen, 6th position. Now this is going to cause a problem, of course, as the longer Gugelmin drives that car, with flames and fluid and goodness knows what coming out of the car, it's going to make the circuit very slippery. There is Frentzen, looking good for a 6th position finish in the Arrows. The team struggled to score any points at all earlier on in this season, and now the Arrows cars are destined to come home 6th and 7th as it stands, as Gugelmin finally bails from the MasterCard Lola. He's out of the car, and we now have 11 laps to go. Barrichello is still 24 seconds back from Alessandro Nini, but he's pulling away from Berger. That's the key factor for the Brazilian. Brilliant run from Rubens Barrichello. We had Emerson Fittipaldi, we had Nelson Piquet, we had Ayrton Senna, and now it looks like we've got Rubens Barrichello, another Brazilian prodigy in Grand Prix racing. Just 19 years of age, the youngest Brazilian ever to start a Grand Prix. And what a phenomenal run. He's in 4th position, 1 place off the points. As Barrichello loses it! He's lost it on the oil! Barrichello loses it! Oh, he was pushing too hard. Berger gets through. Barrichello rejoins in 5th position, but he just pushed a little too hard. Well, the 19-year-old, a very heroic drive. He had a spin earlier on. He's ditched it there. Had it not been for those 2 spins, I reckon he would have been on the podium. But just giving the Brazilian too much to do too soon into his Grand Prix career. You're asking a massive amount out of the young 19-year-old there. And unfortunately, Rubens Barrichello overcooks it and drops to 5th behind the McLaren of Gerhard Berger. Well, this battle for the victory is still going on with 10 laps to go. Alboreto and Häkkinen, 2.5 seconds between the two of them. And still it rumbles on. McLaren's are 3rd and 4th, and they're going to have a big haul of points from this British Grand Prix. They're definitely going to be ultra competitive against Williams and Ferrari heading to the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim. Alboreto in the Lotus, trying to hang on for a British Grand Prix victory. When was the last time a Lotus won the British Grand Prix? It's going to be a big moment for the team. Mika Häkkinen, second place in the Brabham. Alessandro Nannini, third in the McLaren. It's still going to be an all-British podium in terms of the manufacturers. Sam Hall has apparently put a message out to Rubens Barrichello to not worry about dropping to 5th position, because the Brabham's reliability record means that Häkkinen should retire from this race any moment. Well, at the moment, Häkkinen is closing in on Alboreto to go for the race victory. So this isn't done yet. This is just getting started, if anything, as we look at Alessandro Nannini in the McLaren. Still pushing. Third position. He's kind of in no man's land here, Nannini. He's quietly got on with this, though. But this is the sort of smooth rhythm and maturity that Dave Goddard saw in Alessandro Nannini when he brought him to the McLaren team. The podium would definitely cement that reputation. Look at Häkkinen in the background. And that's Frenson pulling off. Frenson in the arrows pulls off. Well, Frenson is going to drop to 8th position then. So it's only going to be 3 points for the German, rather than the 5 that were predicted. So Heinz-Harald Frenson will drop to 8th position. Very unfortunate indeed for the arrows. Well, big problems there as Ed Spencer puts a message out to Nelson Piquet, back off and bring the car home. I think that's a late message that's coming to Ed Spencer. From Ed Spencer, I should say, because Frenson out of the race. Well, dear. Very tricky situation there, because I think the message said to Nelson Piquet to back off, bring the car home, let Heinz-Harald have P6, because we'll have good points regardless of where we finish. I'm afraid that's all gone wrong. Frenson is going to be 8th. Still points, though, for the Arrows team. They've got to be happy with that. Both cars will still score points, but there's now only 7 cars running the British Grand Prix. And that's Häkkinen slowing! Häkkinen slowing! Mika Häkkinen in the Brabham is slowing! Gearbox failure! With just 7 laps to go! The chance of the victory for Brabham and the reigning world champion Mika Häkkinen disappears! Just as Sam Hall predicted, the reliability record of the Brabham comes back to bite them. And they are down to 7th position. Well, Stefano Modena in the Lola is about to be promoted to the top 6 in this Grand Prix. And Gerhard Berger suddenly finds himself on the podium. But Rubens Barrichello is a full 6 seconds back from him with 7 laps to go. Can Rubens Barrichello catch him and score a podium after all? Wow. The rather smug Sam Hall has just put a message out to Rubens Barrichello. Häkkinen out, what did I say? As Michele Alboreto has now got, surely, an unchallenged run to the victory, with Alessandro Nannini in the McLaren now in 2nd, and Berger in his McLaren now in 3rd, ahead of Barrichello, Piquet, and Stefano Modena. The message has gone out to Nelson Piquet, I'm told, by Ed Spencer. Cruise to the line, please. We have P5. Well, Nelson Piquet just trying to be only on points wherever he comes home. Certainly, not the way we would have wanted. It's a minute and 18 seconds back from Michele Alboreto, the man who used to run rings around. Oh, how the tide has turned. Michele Alboreto in the Lotus. Race now. Whatever happens, Michele, do not knock out in this Lotus. It looks like it's going to be 2 wins in a row for the Lotus team. As Gerhard Berger in the McLaren runs in 3rd position. Well, there we go. Sam Hall has tried to get Nelson Piquet to floor it. I think he's tried to give mixed messages over a dodgy radio reception. That's not really going to be the way it goes. So there we go. Wow, fabulous run. As Michele Alboreto leads the British Grand Prix down the hanging straight. Stefano Modena is now confirmed in P6. So some very decent points coming the way of the Lola team here today. Bernard will be 10th and will score the final point. Marcio Benjamin will be 9th and score 2 points. Frenson will be 8th and score 3 points. Mika 75% distance before the 4 cars that pulled off. So they will still get points in the championship, even if they are not classified as finishers. So Michele Alboreto leads the British Grand Prix. Alessandro Nannini in second place, Berger is third, and Rubens Barrichello is fourth place, 6.5 seconds back from Gerhard Berger, but he looks as though he's given up on the chances of the podium. He looks like he's going to bring it home in fourth position of the 6 cars that are still running. Crazy racing in the British Grand Prix. Of course, in the old point system, every car that is finishing would score points now, because it used to be the top 6 that scored points in the championship. Now it is merely, well, it's more than that, of course. It's the top 10 that do so nowadays. And to be fair, for the likes of Hakkinen, Frentzen, Gugelmin and Bernard, they are absolutely relieved at that new point system. And Alessandro Nannini in the McLaren, looking good for second place here. So a really solid performance continues on then here in the British Grand Prix. Alessandro Nannini, he's not really pushing it too hard, he's not being particularly spectacular, but he is going to be on the podium. And 2 McLarens are going to be on the podium. The man with the biggest grin in history is going to be Dave Goddard. The only team so far with 2 cars at the flag. And of course, Alessandro Nannini finished second in the British Grand Prix last year, so he knows how to get this done. And the gap is still steady. Oh no, it's up to 7.5 seconds actually between Berger and Barrichello. So Barrichello is well and truly consolidating a 4th place finish. It's still one of the highest finishes for a Tyrrell this year. I don't think it's the highest finish. I'm fairly sure Tyrrell have had a podium so far this year already. But certainly for their young 19-year-old megastar, Rubens Barrichello in Sao Paulo, a fabulous opportunity to bow things out in style. What a spectacular performance from Rubens Barrichello this is. There is Gerhard Berger in the McLaren, still running in third. 4 laps to go in the British Grand Prix, of course, for Michele Alboreto in the Lotus. What an amazing turnaround of fortunes for the Lotus team, but they said, don't count us out, we have got a good car, we just need to develop it. And they have certainly done that, as even though Warwick is out of the race for the 2nd race in a row, Michele Alboreto looks like he's going to win it for the 2nd race in a row. A man who a lot of people were saying, well, this is the twilight of his Grand Prix racing career. Nobody's given Michele Alboreto that version of the script, it seems. And it looks as though he's going to win his 2nd Grand Prix in a row after winning brilliantly at the French Grand Prix at Magny-Cours on the Renault engine team's home soil. They're going to come through to win the British Grand Prix. The first British Grand Prix win for Lotus for quite some time, it has to be said. Absolutely phenomenal achievement this is going to be for Michele Alboreto. Trying to remember when the last British Grand Prix win for Lotus was. I reckon you've got to go back to the 70s. Absolutely amazing run for Michele Alboreto. But the McLarens are going to finish strong, 2nd and 3rd. And Rubens Barrichello in the Red Bull Tyrrell. Nelson Piquet in the Arrows. And Stefano Modena in the Lola. Those are the only cars running in the British Grand Prix on lap 58 out of 60 on this new configuration of the circuit. This has definitely turned a surprise or two, hasn't it? But I'm a little sad that we didn't get to see that fight for the victory between Michele Alboreto and Mika Hakkinen. I think it could have been a good one. Hakkinen was definitely gaining on Alboreto in the Lotus. And it would have been quite a nice way to end the British Grand Prix. However, the fans of the very British teams, Lotus, McLaren and Tyrrell, are going to be very satisfied with this. In fact, it's only British teams that will make the finish of the British Grand Prix, because we have Lotus, McLaren, Tyrrell, Arrows and Lola. They are the only teams that are going to bring cars home to the finish, it looks, at this moment in time. Mind you, I said it was going to be a high attrition rate race. It isn't over yet. Still to go. As Nannini comes through to go into lap number 59. 2 to go for the McLaren. Still only 7 seconds ahead of Rubens Barrichello in the Red Bull remind me that the Red Bull Tyrrell team are now, of course, technically Australian. They were British. They're now an Australian team, of course, as far as he reminds me, despite the fact they have an Austrian sponsor, or an Austrian owner, I should say. So an Austrian owner, an Australian team that were British. Yep, I'm not sure what paint thinners he's been sniffing either. But Alboreto is coming through at the end of lap 59 to start the final lap of the 1991 British Grand Prix, a race that has seen 20 of the 26 cars drop out in dramatic fashion. Ayrton Senna led and broke down. Thierry Boutsen led and broke down. Mika Hakkinen, Alain Prost, Nigel Mansell, Michael Schumacher, all challenged for the victory today, but it's not going to go to any of them. In the case of the vast majority of those, they didn't even make it to half distance. As Gerhard Berger was chasing his teammate Alessandro Nannini, and we are expecting 2 McLarens on the podium, a massive haul of points for the McLaren team. They are going to score the most Constructors' Championship points here this weekend. The British Grand Prix at Silverstone, a whopping 22 points for the McLaren team to assert themselves towards the top of the Championship. So an excellent run. Here is Michele Alboreto. A couple of races ago, if you'd have said Lotus are going to score 2 wins this year, you would have been stark, staring bonkers. And Michele Alboreto inherited the win in fantastic style at the French Grand Prix. But here today, he has actually been a contender for the win right from the start of it. Michele Alboreto got into second place at turn 1. Held a smooth car throughout. He didn't push his car as hard as his rivals, and he will come through to make it 2 wins in a row. Unbelievable! Lotus win the British Grand Prix. So does Michele Alboreto. What an incredible turn of fortunes for the Lotus team in 1991. All of a sudden, at the half-distance point, Lotus are in the hunt for the championship, and we haven't been able to say that since the 1970s. Absolutely amazing. Well, I suppose Ayrton Senna had a crack at the title in 85 and 86. But now it looks as though they've got a real shot of it. Nannini second for McLaren, Berger third for McLaren. But the driver of the race has got to be the 19-year-old from Sao Paulo, Rubens Barrichello. He went off the road twice in his bid to get the podium. He won't get it, but it's a heroic drive to try nonetheless. He did an absolutely terrific job, Rubens Barrichello. A very worthy race in 4th position in the Red Bull Tyrrell. He comes home now. Excellent performance. 5th position will be the 3-time world champion Nelson Piquet. 6th will be Stefano Modena. Nobody else will finish. As here comes Piquet. What a crazy British Grand Prix this is. I don't think Piquet will ever have been more relieved to finish 5th in his entire career. Only 6 cars made it to the flag in one of the most dramatic British Grand Prix in living memory. What an amazing result. Michele Alboreto wins for the 2nd race in a row. Nannini and Berger in the McLarens, Barrichello in the Tyrrell, Piquet in the Arrows, and Modena in the Lola. They are the only ones who finished. Hakkinen, Frentzen, Gugelmin and Bernard all completed 75% distance of the race, so they do still score the points. But Warwick, Boutsen, Mansell, Tracy, Prost, Wendlinger, Brundle, Katayama, Schumacher, Suzuki, Patrese, Barbazza, Herbert, Ayrton Senna, Eddie Irvine and Jean Alesi all out of the race for varying degrees of problems, mainly gearbox failures, engine failures or punctures. It was a water leak that put Ayrton Senna out. It was an oil leak that put Fabrizio Barbazza's-Jordan out. Williams still have the fastest car, but here at Silverstone, they didn't have the most reliable. Michele Alboreto, the 5th fastest car in the Grand Prix, was the one that came through for the win. There's going to be a major upgrade after this one as we head to the German Grand Prix at Hockenheimring. And of course, the title battle thunders on. We've talked about Ferrari, we've talked about Williams. Now we talk about Lotus as a genuine championship contender. Who's going to get the win at the ultra high-speed Hockenheimring? And based on how tough it's been on the cars here at Silverstone, how many will make the flag in Germany? Tune in next time to find out. I'm Jake Sanson. It's goodbye from the home of British motor racing.